The Journey of a Pokémon Researcher. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 151 Researcher's Promotion Mission. After getting the glazed badge, he also got 2 skill machines. Unfortunately, the 2 skill machines awarded by the glazed gym are related to doubles, not the ultimate skills that Xuanjian urgently needs to decide the outcome. Since then, Xuanjian's Orange Islands Challenge has officially entered the later stage, and he is only 1 step away from qualifying for the Winner's Cup Challenge. Xuanjian originally planned to challenge the Grapefruit Gym in one go, but he didn't expect to receive a call from Xiaobo at this time. Boy, you are so cool. You went to travel to Hezhong alone, and left this mess here without asking. Do you really want to be a hands-off boss and let me, an old man, take care of everything? Young people nowadays are really unreliable. Xiaobo kept complaining on the other end of the phone. Listening to Xiaobo's complaints, Xuanjian kept bowing and apologizing. I'm sorry, Xiaobo, I was wrong, please don't be angry. I was not honest in doing this, I proposed the experiment myself, and I will take the biggest share after the results come out. Although I really don't have time to participate in the experiment in person, I must pay more attention to it. Xiaobo complained and vented, and then saw Xuanjian's sincere apology. His anger subsided a lot, so he said, forget it, you won't have the opportunity to go to Hezhong in a few years anyway, this time just regard it as a farewell tour between you and Hezhong. Well, I'm not angry when I think about it this way. Hearing Xiaobo's words, Xuanjian was a little confused, and asked, Xiaobo, why can't I go to Hezhong in a few years? Of course it's because you broke the pride of the people of Hezhong with your own hands. Ah. Xuanjian was stunned for a moment, then reacted, did you report the discovery of the fairy system? Unova is also known as the hometown of dragons. There are the most dragon-type elves there in the world. The local people are also proud of the dragon-type elves and believe that dragon-type elves are the most powerful elves. But the discovery of the fairy type has undoubtedly broken this myth, and Xuanjian, as the discoverer of the fairy type, will of course become unwelcome. It will undoubtedly be difficult for Xuanjian to visit Unova in the short term. He can only wait until people forget about it. Seeing that Xuanjian guessed the reason, Xiaobo no longer kept it a secret and said, that's right, the Dragon Clan rejected the Rocket Team's request for cooperation, so it's useless to hold this handle in hand. It's better to let it go and cause trouble for the Dragon Clan. By the way, I saw that you were going to pass the evaluation of the researcher, so I helped you to pin this discovery on you. Don't thank me. Xuanjian. This old guy, just after threatening the Yulong clan with this discovery, he attributed the discovery to himself, and didn't tell others clearly that he was related to Team Rocket. He also looked selfless, what an old fox. By the way, to become a researcher, you must be registered under the name of a doctor recognized by the League. I have registered it under my name for you. I believe you don't mind. I don't mind, but Xiaobo, you still keep your position in the League? Didn't you join Team Rocket? It's not good for you to do this. Xuanjian asked with some confusion. Hearing Xuanjian's doubts, Xiaobo said, it doesn't matter. Lord Sakoki knows about this. As long as I don't harm the interests of Team Rocket, these insignificant little things don't matter. Hearing Xiaobo's words, Xuanjian couldn't help but be a little surprised. He didn't expect Sakoki to be so magnanimous that he could tolerate his subordinates playing both sides. Should we say that he is worthy of being the top villain in the world? By the way, if you have more Pokemon in your hands, you can deposit them with me, and I can help you take care of them. Especially the leaf elves you just discovered, I am very interested in them. Hearing what Xiaobo said, Xuanjian was very excited. The elves in his hands had already surpassed the limit, but they had been carried by Duoga all the time, so they were not teleported away. But now Duoga can't put them in anymore. If Xiaobo could keep them for him, it would be great, but you won't use my elves for experiments, right? Xuanjian asked. He could ignore other elves for experiments, but he definitely couldn't use his own elves. Of course. Xiaobo said, I'm just observing them, I won't use them for experiments. I don't like those crazy studies. Even if I want to do something, I will tell you first. Especially the newly discovered leaf elves, which are currently a hot research topic. Well, that's fine. Xuanjian nodded, Then I'll send Butterfree, Centipede, and Giant Mantis over. Please help me take care of them. The other Pokémon are either needed in the near future, or their strength is rapidly improving and they need more attention from the trainer, so they are not suitable to be transferred over. Xiaobo was a little disappointed to hear that the leaf Pokémon he was most looking forward to was not there, but he also knew that Xuanjian only had that one grass-type Pokémon who would be used in the next gym battle, so he didn't say much. Leave it to me with confidence. By the way, you must complete a trial mission of the Alliance before you are promoted to researcher. Go to the Pokémon Center and pick one to complete. The trial mission requires A level or above, and it is mainly to test your strength. You should be able to do it. Yeah, okay. Xuanjian nodded. By the way, Xiaobo, how is the progress of the experiment? This was originally the first topic, but the two of them unknowingly changed the subject, so Xuanjian only remembered to care about it now. Hearing Xuanjian's question, Xiaobo remembered the focus of this call, and hurriedly changed the subject back. The progress is very smooth. We have successfully cloned a Dream Eater using the cells of the Dream Taper. The genes of this dream-inducing taper are indeed excellent, and the cloned Dream-Eating Beast has a strong hypnotic ability at birth. The dream-inducing taper in the dream world has also successfully mastered degeneration and degenerated itself into a dream-eating beast. What we have to do next is to go one step further and use its cells to clone a body without a soul, and then let the soul of the dream-inducing taper enter. Great, thank you for your hard work. Xuanjian was also happy to hear that the experiment was going well. By the way, do you want the cloned dream-eating beast? If you don't want it, I'll give it to someone else. That guy has good qualifications, and many people have already set their sights on it. The cloning of the dream-eating beast was just a preliminary attempt to revive the dream-inducing taper. At this time, it is no longer useful in the experiment. According to the tradition of the rockets, in order to maximize its value, it will be placed in the exchange column, waiting for the rockets to exchange it. After a little thought, Xuanjian shook his head and refused. Forget it, I'm not too interested in that one. Dream-eating taper is not a psychic Pokémon that he likes. Even if it is very good, he does not want to tame it. Xiaobo nodded. Then I will put this Pokémon in the Rocket Team's exchange project. I don't know which lucky guy can exchange it. Well, I will set the exchange points higher to eliminate those teams that are not good enough. There is a little Easter egg at the end. Can you guess who exchanged for Dream Eater? Hint, look for it in the original animation. Chapter 152 Speculations. After talking to Xiaobo, Xuanjian and Duoga came to the Elf Center, wanting to take on a suitable task and complete the trial for promotion to researcher. Hearing Xuanjian's request, Miss Joy warmly received him. The trial for promotion to researcher? You are so young and you have been promoted to researcher. You are really amazing. Let me find it. Miss Joy then checked on the computer. The tasks for the promotion trial must be A level or above, and such tasks are rare. Found it? Joy turned the computer screen to Xuanjian and Duoga and said, these are the A level and above tasks that have not been taken by anyone in the Orange Alliance. You can choose one. Xuanjian and Duoga checked the tasks together. Probably because the tourist season is approaching, the tasks in the Orange Islands have suddenly increased. The A level and above tasks that are usually rare actually appeared at once. After some consideration, Xuanjian and Duoga decided to choose the A level task of the metropolis on the small Orange Island. After all, this task is closest to their next destination, the Grapefruit Island, and it is just on the way. Is it the investigation mission of Xuanjian Island? After seeing that the two had chosen, Joey helped Xuanjian register and said, the requirement of this mission is to investigate and find the monsters in the underground tunnels of the Xuanjian Island metropolis. The rumor that there are monsters in the sewers of the metropolis has been around for a long time, and no one has taken it seriously. However, it seems that a new monster has appeared during this period, and the annual King of Guidance competition is about to be held there, so people pay attention to it and issue such a mission. King of Guidance competition? What is this? Xuanjian asked curiously, and the mission was immediately selectively ignored. Hearing Xuanjian's question, Joey patiently answered, the King's Guidance Tournament is a competition held by the Orange League to celebrate the return of the peak tourist season. Trainers fight each other, and the final winner will be able to get guidance from the Ice King. This is a rare opportunity to come into contact with a big shot at the King level, and it attracts many trainers every year. Ice King Kona? I want to participate too. Xuanjian said without hesitation. There are not many opportunities to get guidance from the king like this, and he must not give up. Where can I sign up? To sign up, you must go to a big city, and in order to select trainers of sufficient level, the registration conditions are the same as the Victor's Cup, and you need to collect 4 badges. There are still 10 days before the competition starts, so you must hurry if you want to participate. Joey said. Okay, thank you Miss Joy. Xuanjian thanked, and then said to Duoge, time is running out, why don't we set off immediately? No problem. Duoge nodded, I also want to see the style of the Ice King. Time was tight, so the two cancelled their plan to stay overnight and immediately rode a dragon to Xuanjian Island. With all their efforts, they arrived at Xuanjian Island before dark. After a night's rest, the two met the publisher of the task, Junsha, at the police station. Miss Junsha, can you provide us with some relevant information about the task? Xuanjian asked. Although it had been mentioned in the previous task description, Xuanjian still wanted to hear what the person involved had to say in person. Of course, come with me, I'll take you to the place where the monster appeared, we'll talk on the way. Junsha said, and then took the two of them to the sewer. In fact, the rumor that there is a monster in the sewer has been around for more than 20 years, but everyone speculated that it was an elf who liked to play tricks, and that elf didn't have much impact on people's lives, so no one cared. Until another monster appeared. Another monster. Yes, Junsha nodded, and said, we inferred that the previous one might be an elf, but we can't be sure what the latter one is. Since the appearance of that monster, people often see some dead people moving around, causing quite a bit of commotion. In addition, due to the appearance of this monster, the original elves have become restless, and they even began to actively attack humans and destroy the city. Last time, they destroyed the traffic lights and almost caused a traffic accident. Is that so? Xuanjian touched his chin and thought. He vaguely remembered that in the original book, it seemed that an abandoned Bulbasaur was playing tricks in the underground tunnel, but it had no effect on the other troublemaker. It seemed that the matter could not be solved so simply. The underground tunnels are connected in all directions. Not only is it very easy to hide, but also because their main activity place is the sewer, where they can easily use water and other smells to get rid of the nose of the caterpillar, so my caterpillar has no way to track the enemy. We are here, Junsha said to the two, this is the place where they were active last time. At that time, they were trying to destroy the city's water supply system. Although the other party escaped in the end, they still left some traces here. I hope to catch these guys who are causing trouble as soon as possible, otherwise it will be a great threat to the safety of the city. Xuanjian nodded and checked the traces left by the other party on the sand. The footprints of different Pokémon are different, but the footprints left on the ground are obviously covered up and do not belong to any Pokémon. If it is not manipulated by people behind the scenes, then the Pokémon who did all this is simply terribly smart. Miss Junsha, have you measured these footprints? Xuanjian asked. No, what's the use of measuring this? Junsha asked curiously. Of course, Xuanjian said, I guess the so-called monster must be an elf. Although it is impossible to judge the type of the other party based on the footprints, the weight of the other party can be calculated by the area and depth of the footprints. Good idea, leave it to me. Junsha said, and then picked up the walkie-talkie and asked her men to bring instruments to measure. By the way, we have collected some footprints left by the other party before. I will ask them to measure them as well. Xuanjian nodded, and walked to the other side to observe other traces left by the other party. According to Junsha, the other party tried to destroy the city's water supply pipeline, and the traces left on the pipeline also proved this. Xuanjian carefully observed the pipeline and found that there were 2 types of damage marks left on it. The one with greater damage to the pipeline is obviously a skill with a cutting effect, and the uneven cuts on the pipeline indicate that this skill is not very powerful. The other kind of marks caused much less damage to the pipeline, and it was obviously just to make up the numbers. It seemed to be the marks left by the elf's claws and teeth. Judging from the claw marks and tooth marks, the claws of this elf were not very sharp, and the teeth were also average, and the mouth shape should be somewhat like a canine Pokémon. Miss Junsha, can I use the elf to test the pipeline? Xuanjian asked. Yes, this pipeline has been damaged to a certain extent and is now temporarily out of service. You can test it. Okay, thank you, come out, Leaf Elf. Xuanjian called out his Leaf Elf, and then ordered, Leaf Elf, use the flying leaf knife on the pipeline. The Leaf Elf shot out a green leaf from the leaf on its forehead and chopped it on the steel pipeline. A knife mark immediately appeared on the pipeline. Xuanjian walked over and compared the knife mark made by the leaf elf with the damage mark left by the opponent, and found that except for the different depths caused by the different power of the skills, other aspects were very similar. The traces are very similar. It seems that the other party used the leaf blade skill. Xuanjian said. At the same time, he was sure that one of the elves was the Bulbasaur in the original book, but what would the other elf be? At this time, the police officers with instruments also arrived. They quickly measured the footprints, and then under Xuanjian's guidance, they measured the weight of the elf that left the footprints based on the relationship between pressure and force area. The police officers in other places also used this method to calculate the weight of the elves in turn and summarize them in Xuanjian's hands. Xuanjian took the measured data and said, "Strange, according to the footprints here, the weight of both is about 12 kilograms. But the footprints measured in other places show that the weight of one of the monsters keeps changing. It's really strange. Are there any other clues?" "Yes, we found several gray and dark red hairs at the scene, but we didn't find out which elf it belongs to." "Is that so? I roughly guessed which guy it is," Xuanjian said, touching his chin. "Guess what it will be? I've made it very clear." Chapter 153, Ensnaring. Although he guessed what kind of Pokemon it was, Xuanjian did not say it out loud. After all, a large part of the inference was something he could not explain clearly. However, Xuanjian still proposed a way to solve this problem, setting a trap to capture them. "How do we set up a trap?" "We have tried to lure them with food before, but it didn't work." The other party was not fooled at all. Xuanjian said. "The underground waterways are interconnected and it is not suitable for fierce battles. I have obviously surrounded them many times, but they have escaped. This is why I have to issue the task." "That's for sure," Xuanjian said. "One of these two Pokemon is very smart, and ordinary traps can't catch them. We must treat them as humans and set a trap that is smart enough." "A trap that is smart enough? How to do it?" Xuanjian asked. "These two Pokemon are destroying the sewer pipes, which means they are hostile to this city or humans. If I pretend to hold an important meeting, they will probably destroy it after knowing it. Of course, in order to show that this meeting is important, the mayor must attend. If my memory is correct, the Bulbasaur should have been abandoned by the mayor, but this Bulbasaur still has expectations of the mayor. If it knows where the mayor appears, it is likely to go find the mayor, and then I can catch it and complete the task. I can't explain how I know the relationship between the mayor and Bulbasaur, so I can only use the excuse that the mayor must attend to highlight the importance of the meeting. Moreover, this plan is reasonable and well-founded. Even if it is not the Bulbasaur that makes trouble, based on the other party's previous behavior, the possibility of making trouble is not low. That's not a problem. The mayor has a lot of meetings every day anyway, and most of them are unimportant. Just pick one and pretend. By the way, in order to increase the persuasiveness, we need to print some newspapers for publicity. Well, I think the main content of the newspaper should be the mayor's photos. It's best to have photos from childhood to adulthood," Xuanjian added. After all, Bulbasaur may not be able to recognize the mayor if he only said the name, but he would definitely recognize the name if there was a photo. After hearing Xuanjian's addition, Xuanjian did not reply, but stared at Xuanjian in a weird way, which made Xuanjian very uncomfortable, not knowing what was wrong. What's wrong? Is there something wrong with the plan? Does the mayor not want to expose his childhood photos? Then any photos after he becomes an adult will do. No. Xuanjian shook her head. Our newly appointed mayor is a person who likes to show off himself very much. He even plans to erect a personal statue in the city center at his own expense. If he knew our plan, I think he would definitely use the excuse of strongly supporting our investigation to make a real show and take the opportunity to promote himself. He has wanted to do this for a long time, but everyone disagrees. You have given him a good opportunity. If I didn't know that you are not from this city, I would have thought you were trying to flatter the mayor. Xuanjian felt a black line on his forehead when he heard Xuanjian's words. This behavior looked so familiar. However, if the other party wanted to erect a statue for himself, it also indirectly proved that this mayor was the mayor who abandoned Bulbasaur. He did not find the wrong person. Since the mayor is willing to cooperate with us, it couldn't be better. At least if he is in charge of the publicity, it can save us a lot of trouble. That makes sense, then I'll report the plan. After Xuanjian reported Xuanjian's plan, after confirming that he would not be in any danger, The mayor immediately expressed his strong support for the plan, and even took the initiative to arrange an afternoon to set up the non-existent meeting. When it comes to their own interests, the bureaucrats' ability to act is always amazing. In less than half a day, all the newspapers and posters in the city were advertising that the mayor was going to hold an important meeting. Although except for the beginning, it did not mention what kind of meeting it was almost all the mayor's personal autobiography. This is too exaggerated. Duoga looked at the overwhelming propaganda posters on the street and said speechlessly, "Who cares? At least it saves us a lot of trouble, right?" Xuanjian said. This is the style of bureaucrats, and he has long been accustomed to it. Although the other party took advantage of this to make some small moves, it also saved him a lot of trouble, didn't it? However, although the publicity was so powerful, whether the two Pokémon knew about it was not something Xuanjian could control. It all depended on whether God would give them face. Miss Xuanjia had an unexpected gain. The mayor personally demonstrated her dedication to her job. However, Xuanjia, who had been in the industry for many years but won this honor for the first time, secretly told Xuanjian that it was just because her plan this time was in line with the other party's wishes and she was flattering him in disguise. However, these had nothing to do with Xuanjian. As a researcher and trainer, he had already jumped out of that circle, so these things were just a joke. He was more concerned about whether his plan could succeed. Soon, according to the time on the publicity, an important meeting chaired by the mayor himself was held, and Xuanjian, Duoga and Xuanjia hid in the compartment together and waited for the opportunity. I never knew that a person could talk to a dummy so much with relish. Duoga looked at the dummy disguised as a participant under the camera and spoke incessantly. Because of the fear of too many people causing chaos, there were no outsiders in the meeting room except the mayor, and the participants were all disguised as dummies. Perhaps when they usually hold meetings, the audience below is similar to the dummies. Xuanjian gave an answer that was close to the truth. Right, Miss Xuanjia. Almost. Xuanjia said. She was a little anxious, not knowing whether this plan would succeed. Although the police station did not spend too much effort this time because of the mayor's smooth sailing, it was undoubtedly a big move. For Xuanjia, who was determined to maintain the stability of people's lives, such a thing was already very serious. I don't know if he saw Xuanjia's anxiety, Xuanjian suddenly said. Here it comes. Then he took out a Pokeball and held it in his hand, his eyes fixed on the door of the conference room. Xuanjia and Duoga also perked up and looked over, only to see that the door of the conference room was suddenly opened, and then a tall modern girl walked in. Xuanjia looked at Xuanjian in confusion. This woman is the mayor's secretary. Everyone has seen her? Is she doing something bad behind the scenes? The beautiful secretary walked to the podium with a cat step, and suddenly took out a Pokeball and summoned a large-sized Bulbasaur. As soon as Bulbasaur appeared, it immediately pounced on the mayor with a happy face, tied him up with a vine whip, pulled him to its side and kept rubbing against him. This is Bulbasaur's exclusive way of greeting, and it will only be used for those who they think are very close. However, the mayor obviously couldn't accept this kind of goodwill. He kept struggling and shouted, "Let me go. Xuanjia. Bodyguard. Come and stop this guy." Chapter 154 Zoroark and Bulbasaur. Hearing the mayor's call for help, the mayor's bodyguards immediately rushed in, and Xuanjia also rushed out immediately, trying to help the mayor out. But Bulbasaur's vine whip is very powerful, and everyone is afraid to use it directly to attack Bulbasaur, so it is useless. After trying to no avail, Xuanjia immediately turned to the beautiful secretary and said, "You are now suspected of attacking the mayor. I order you to let Bulbasaur release the vine whip." After hearing Xuanjia's words, the beautiful secretary gave Xuanjia a weird smile, and then ignored Xuanjia. However, Duoga, who was hiding in the compartment with Xuanjian, saw the other party's weird smile through the camera and thought about it. He asked Xuanjian, "Do you think the secretary's smile is weird but familiar?" Of course, Xuanjian said, "That kind of naughty smile can only be emitted by the evil spirit Zoroark. Let's go, it's almost time for us to go on stage. Since I guessed the identities of the two elves, my purpose has changed from completing the task to trying to conquer the elves. After all, both Bulbasaur and Zoroark are very rare and precious Pokémon. As for the fact that Bulbasaur cannot evolve, Xuanjian thinks it is not necessarily a congenital defect, but it may be that some conditions have not been met. After all, the conditions for Pokémon evolution are much more complicated than in the game." Xuanjia, who was at a loss, saw Xuanjian coming out and immediately found her savior. She said to Xuanjian, Mr. Xuanjian, think of a way to let Bulbasaur let go of the mare. Xuanjian nodded and comforted him. Don't worry, Bulbasaur has no ill will towards the mare. I think it is just reminiscing with the mare. Then he turned his head and said to the Miss Secretary next to him, Okay, Zoroark, if you have made enough trouble, show your original form. I need you to help me appease Bulbasaur and have a normal communication. Hearing Xuanjian's words, the Miss Secretary stared at Xuanjian, then jumped onto the table, turned into Zoroark again, and called a few times to Bulbasaur, but unfortunately Bulbasaur was completely immersed in the joy of reuniting with the mare and ignored Zoroark. Finding that Bulbasaur completely ignored her, Zoroark activated her illusion again, and turned into a middle-aged fat woman with her hands on her hips, pointing at Bulbasaur and cursing. If the talking Meowth from Team Rocket was here, and it translated Zoroark's words to everyone, then the style of the painting would probably be like this: You idiot, how could I have such a stupid teammate like you? You are such a jerk. You said that after coming here, everything would be arranged by me. How come you forgot everything when you got here? I shouldn't have been soft-hearted and agreed to help you. I worked hard to help you destroy and take revenge on humans, but in the end it was all in vain. After helping you meet the person you wanted to see, you actually ignored me. I was really blind. Although Xuanjian didn't understand Zoroark's words, as a dark elf, Zoroark would definitely not say anything good, not to mention that it deliberately transformed into such a shrew. Discovering that Zoroark couldn't affect Bulbasaur, Xuanjian could only take action himself. Come out. Starfish, use the water gun to calm Bulbasaur. Water-type skills are not effective against grass-type skills, and Starfish didn't use much power, so Bulbasaur didn't suffer any damage. Instead, it regained its sanity under the attack of the water gun. Seeing that Bulbasaur had regained its sanity, Xuanjian also said, Bulbasaur, I guess you are the Pokémon abandoned by the mare, right? Seed Bulbasaur nodded, confirming Xuanjian's words. Seeing Xuanjia approaching, she was very surprised and asked, How do you know? Xuanjian pretended to say, There's a bell hanging around Bulbasaur's neck, which means that it has an owner. And as soon as it saw the mare, it immediately rushed up to show affection, which means that its owner is likely to be the mare. Moreover, I noticed that the two Pokémons are very purposeful and are almost entirely targeting the mare, so I boldly guessed that it is an Pokémon abandoned by the mare. That makes sense, Xuanjia nodded, and said to the mare, Okay, then the case is solved. It was your Pokémon, the mare, that caused the disturbance in the city. Then according to convention, you need to pay a fine and publicly apologize to the citizens. Wait, said the mare, since I have abandoned this Bulbasaur, it is no longer my Pokémon, right? Why should I apologize for it? I am the mare, this is too damaging to my image. Friendly reminder, according to the rules of the Alliance, Bulbasaur is a precious starter Pokémon, and it cannot be released at will. If the trainer really feels that it is difficult to get along with it, then he can apply to return it to the Alliance. Otherwise, it is deemed to still retain the subordinate relationship. Of course, few people will abide by this rule. After all, the starter Pokémon not only has outstanding racial values, but is also not difficult to cultivate. Returning the starter Pokémon not only has no benefits, but is often considered to have no talent as a trainer, which is a very thankless task. At this time, Zoroark also changed back to his original form, rushed over and shouted at everyone with his hands and feet dancing. Under Zoroark's hard work, Xuanjian actually understood what it wanted to express. You mean you are wondering, Zoroark, who happened to meet this Bulbasaur, and after listening to its story, you stood up for it and destroyed the city. Is that right? Although Zoroark is a dark Pokémon, he usually does some small mischief for fun, and will not wantonly destroy the city. After all, it will not benefit him to do so. Zoroark nodded, indicating that what Xuanjian said was right. If it weren't for his advice, with Bulbasaur's personality, it would at most make trouble. How could it do such a great thing as destroying the city? Did that guy clearly hate the guy who abandoned him, but when he saw it, he stuck to it again and didn't care about anything? Zoroark even suspected that if Bulbasaur hadn't been unable to find that guy before, he would have run back long ago. After listening to Xuanjian's words, Xuanjia said, Okay, in this case, everything is clear. Then Mr. Mayor, please come with us and the two Pokémon. Hearing Xuanjia's words, Zoroark called Bulbasaur and was about to flee, but Xuanjia, who is well prepared, immediately summoned Growlithe. Go, Growlithe, keep an eye on them. In the complicated sewers, Growlithe may not be able to do anything to these two guys, But here, no matter how Zoroark changes, he can't escape Growlithe's nose. Bulbasaur was indifferent to Zoroark's words, and Zoroark could not escape from Growlithe alone, so he was soon driven back by Growlithe. He lay on the ground listlessly, pretending to be pitiful. At this time, the mayor's patience had reached its limit, and he ordered the bodyguards, "Save me quickly, kill Bulbasaur and Zoroark. They are the culprits who destroyed this city, and they must be responsible for this with their lives." Chapter 155 Persuasion, please subscribe. Right parenthesis. Hearing the mayor's words, the bodyguards immediately took action. Powerful trainers rarely condescend to others, or at least they are not the kind of people that the mayor can subdue, so there is no trainer among the mayor's bodyguards. But these bodyguards have all undergone rigorous training, and even mastered some powerful weapons, and they are no weaker than Pokémon in a real fight. They took out their laser guns and pulled the triggers, and the laser guns in their hands immediately shot lasers at Bulbasaur and Zoroark. Seeds. Seeing the opponent's ruthless attack, Bulbasaur finally realized that the mayor had completely abandoned him. After a sad cry, countless leaves were immediately shot out from the seeds on his back, which was the grass-type ultimate move, Leaf Storm. The leaves and lasers collided with each other and exploded violently. Taking this opportunity, Zoroark quickly transformed into Xuanjian, forced the reluctant Bulbasaur to take back the Pokéball, and rushed out of the door and fled. Xuanjian and Caterpie also completely ignored this and pretended to be affected by the conflict between the two sides. Seeing the two elves running away, the mayor was furious. "HMPH, what's the use of running away? I know you are hiding in the sewers in the slums. I will immediately close the entrances and exits of the sewers in the entire city." "Mayor, isn't this a bad thing to do?" Xuanjian questioned. "There are many homeless poor people living there. There's nothing wrong with it." The mayor waved his hand and said, "Sewers are not places to live, let them go to the shelter themselves." "But the shelter can't accommodate so many people. And many people don't meet the standards for admission." "Enough," the mayor roared. "Ms. Xuanjian, if you hadn't let the two elves run away, would I have to close the sewers? All this responsibility is on you." After that, the mayor turned away. Seeing Miss Xuanjian with an ugly face, Xuanjian comforted her. "Miss Xuanjian, it will take some time for the mayor's order to be executed. As long as we find the two Pokémon first, the mayor will have no excuse to close the sewer. As for the two Pokémon, we will hand them over to Miss Joy and ask her to take back the Bulbasaur on the grounds of abusing Pokémons, and the mayor will have no way to deal with them." "This is the only way," Xuanjian said, and then said to Caterpie, "Caterpie, can you try your best to help us find the two Pokémons?" Caterpie hesitated for a moment, and finally nodded. It didn't have a clear target before, so it would be difficult to find. But it had just had close contact with them and remembered their smells firmly, so the difficulty of finding them decreased a lot. "Okay, then let's set off immediately." The three immediately followed Caterpie to track Bulbasaur and Zoroark. Finally, after spending a lot of effort, they finally found the two Pokémons at the exit of an abandoned sewer leading to the sea. When Xuanjian and his group arrived, Bulbasaur was looking at the rising moon at the entrance of the sewer, and tears rolled down from his eyes from time to time. Zoroark kept saying something to Bulbasaur, but Bulbasaur didn't listen at all. Hearing the footsteps of the crowd, Zoroark stopped persuading, turned around cautiously, and stared at the group. Woo-woo! Zoroark made a sound, threatening everyone, and at the same time, the hair on his body exploded, as if to intimidate everyone. Xuanjian couldn't help but laugh when he saw Zoroark like this. This little guy looked like a cat with exploded hair. "Okay, don't be nervous, we are here to help you," Xuanjian said. "The mayor is going to use cement to completely seal the sewer and trap you inside. Unless you have a strong digging skill like Rattata, there is hope to get out. If you are sealed inside, the grass-type Bulbasaur may be able to survive by photosynthesis, but you, the evil type, will probably starve to death." Seeing that Zoroark was frightened by his threat, Xuanjian nodded in his heart. "First give a big stick, then a sweet date, so that the other party can bow his head. Of course, we won't watch such a cruel thing happen. We come here to tell you a way out." Xuanjian paused, and seeing Zoroark looking at him eagerly, Xuanjian said, "We will take you to the Pokémon Center, and Miss Joy will be a witness to let Bulbasaur and the mayor break off their relationship. Then you will become my Pokémon, and I will compensate and apologize on your behalf. How about this plan?" As long as this task is completed and promoted to researcher, the salary plus the royalties and bonuses from the previous paper can be said to be temporarily not short of money. Spending money to compensate is not a problem at all. Xuanjian looked at Xuanjian. Xuanjian didn't mention this to her just now, but it would be great if someone was willing to compensate. Otherwise, once Bulbasaur and the mayor break off their relationship, I don't know who to ask for reimbursement for such a large amount of repair costs. Hearing Xuanjian's words, Zoroya was a little moved, and Bulbasaur on the side still ignored everything and immersed in his own world. Seeing this scene, Zoroya sighed helplessly, and then gestured to Xuanjian again. You said you don't want to be my elf? Are you afraid that I will abuse you? Xuanjian pretended to frown, and then said, and, you don't have to be my elf, but you must stay by my side until you pay off the money I paid for you. Is that okay? If you don't trust me, we can ask Miss Joy to be fair. Compared with Xuanjia, Joy's reputation among the elves is undoubtedly better, and many elves are willing to believe her. Hearing that Xuanjian wanted to ask Joy to be fair, Zoroya hesitated and agreed. After all, it is just an elf. No matter how cunning it is, it can't be calculated by Xuanjian. It doesn't understand what it means to play hard to get. It doesn't know that birds will never want to leave the cage after being kept in the cage for a long time. Of course, if Xuanjian's cage is not good enough, then they will leave without any reluctance. Then let's leave quickly, otherwise if the mayor starts to seal the sewer, it will be troublesome to get out. Zoroya nodded, and walked out with Xuanjian and the other two with Bulbasaur, who was still immersed in sadness. Xuanjian looked at Bulbasaur immersed in his own world and had a headache. Pokémons have different personalities. Some Pokémons are more carefree and will leave without hesitation when they are abandoned by their trainers, and will survive tenaciously, such as Xuanjian, Squirtle and Bulbasaur. Other Pokémons are more sentimental and stubborn. When they encounter such a blow, they will be extremely depressed, such as Xuanjian's Charizard. The former Pokémon is easier to conquer, while the latter is much more difficult, but once it truly recognizes you, the potential it will burst out is unimaginable. We have to think of a way to completely help this Bulbasaur open up his heart. Xuanjian thought. As for making it recognize itself, it is a long and arduous process. Didn't you see that even Xuanjian, who has the halo of the protagonist, spent a lot of effort to completely conquer Charmander, Charizard? At this time, there was a vibration from the ground, and then there was an explosion not far away. Hearing the explosion, Xuanjian's face changed immediately. Not good, maybe the mayor ordered someone to blow up this section of the sewer directly. After all, this section has been abandoned for a long time. It's much easier to blow it up directly than to close it. Let's rush out. Then, the group quickly ran out. Xuanjian noticed that Bulbasaur was still so absent-minded, without any sense of urgency, so he could only bend down and hold it in his arms. Fortunately, Bulbasaur didn't care about it at all, just let Xuanjian do it, and when Zoroark saw it, he stopped running by himself, but jumped onto Xuanjian's shoulder and took a ride. You guys are good at taking advantage, Xuanjian said as he looked at Zoroark, who was lying on his shoulder and combing his hair. Woo woo, Zoroark shouted proudly. At this time, there was another more violent explosion in the distance, and the sewer that had been in disrepair for a long time could no longer bear it and began to collapse. Be careful, Xuanjian shouted, and at the same time he subconsciously raised his hand and hugged Zoroark into his arms to protect him, and then he was buried by the rubble falling from the tunnel ceiling. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 156, Bulbasaur's Fate. When Xuanjian woke up, he was already lying on the bed in the Pokémon Center. Duoga was sleeping in front of the bed, and the little naughty boy Zoroya got into the bed and slept with Xuanjian. Xuanjian touched Zoroya's soft fur. It had been a long time since he evolved from Leaf Pokémon and hadn't touched fur that felt so good. Zoroya grumbled a few times in dissatisfaction as someone disturbed his sleep, and Duoga and Bulbasaur were immediately awakened. How are you? Duoga asked with concern. I'm fine, Xuanjian said, and then raised his arm to indicate that he was really fine. You didn't hurt your hand, Duoga glared at Xuanjian unhappily, stuffed his hand back into the quilt, tucked the quilt, and then said, you were hit on the head by the falling stone from the top of the underground tunnel. You have a slight concussion and need to rest well. Yes, Xuanjian said obediently, and then asked, are you okay? We are all fine, just choked by the falling dust. He looked at the Bulbasaur who was still sleeping and looking at Xuanjian with concern, and said, they are also well protected by you, they are all fine. After the underground tunnel collapsed, we couldn't leave from the exit. Fortunately, the sewers are connected in all directions and were not completely blocked. With the help of water spirits, we dived from the water to other exits and escaped. Miss Xuanjia stayed here for a while, and then left to solve the sewer problem. That makes me feel relieved, Xuanjian said. My recovery is relatively strong, and I will probably recover tomorrow morning. With the power of Changpan, most injuries are not a problem for him at all. And it seems that Bulbasaur and Zoroark both agree with him, this time the injury is very worthwhile. That depends on what Miss Joy says. Duoga said. Well, I'm fine, you guys should rest soon. Everyone is tired all day. The next morning, after Miss Joy's examination, Xuanjian was determined to have recovered and could be discharged from the hospital. Miss Xuanjia also brought the latest news, everything has been settled. The closure of the sewer has stopped, and Bulbasaur has officially severed its relationship with the mayor. Great. Xuanjian said, and then said to Xuanjia, Miss Xuanjia, I will transfer the compensation to you later. But it is difficult to come up with so much money in a short time. Can you allow me to pay in installments? No need, Xuanjia said. I have paid the compensation with your task reward and the pension you received after being injured. Of course, your task reward will be gone. Xuanjia said and blinked at Xuanjian. You have a plan. I have a ladder to climb over the wall. If the mayor is unwilling to pay the compensation, then I will lower the compensation as much as possible, and then increase the task reward and pension as much as possible. Isn't this matter settled? Thank you. Xuanjian said gratefully. No need to thank me. I'm really embarrassed to say that you guys have made a wasted trip on this mission. No, didn't I meet these two little guys? That's enough. Xuanjian said as he touched the head of Bulbasaur beside him and Zoroark on his shoulder. Bulbasaur immediately showed an expression of enjoyment. Zoroark had a proud and unwilling look on his face, but his body honestly leaned towards Xuanjian's hand. By the way, I have to interrupt you for a moment. Mr. Xuanjian, can you come with me? Joey suddenly said on the side. Of course. Joey walked to Bulbasaur, squatted down and touched Bulbasaur's head, then took Xuanjian to a room and said to Xuanjian, just now, I checked this child by the way and found that this child may not evolve. Are you sure you want to take it with you? Hearing Joey's words, the atmosphere suddenly became cold. Bulbasaur, who can't evolve, is really not much help to Xuanjian, and may even be a burden. It is really not worth it to subdue it. In silence, Joey spoke up, now you have replaced the mayor and become the person that Bulbasaur recognizes in his heart. If you do something to hurt it because it can't evolve in the future, Bulbasaur will be more seriously injured. Instead of that, why don't you leave it with me? Don't worry, I will help you hide it. After all, for a trainer, it is a big burden to capture a Bulbasaur that can't evolve. Hearing Joey's words, Xuanjian fell into a dilemma. He would plan to capture this Bulbasaur because he thought that the other party might still evolve, but some conditions could not be met. Otherwise, he would never be interested in a Bulbasaur that could not evolve. But now that he has successfully impressed Bulbasaur, Joey told him that Bulbasaur could not evolve, which was undoubtedly a bolt from the blue for him. Especially Joey also came up with a perfect solution that seemed impeccable, which seemed to be good for both parties. In the suffocating silence, time seemed to pass very slowly. Finally, Xuanjian spoke, I think, through my efforts, I have the qualifications to keep the beautiful things in my heart, so, Miss Joy, please rest assured to entrust the Bulbasaur to me. If it was when I first debuted, I might choose to give up because I was poor and had low aspirations, but now I can be said to have achieved certain achievements, so there is no need to abandon my conscience. Although I gave up Bulbasaur, Joey covered it up, but in essence, I became a guy like the mayor. Then what is the point of working so hard? Hearing Xuanjian's answer, Joey smiled and said, I thought you would choose to give up. It seems that I miscalculated. But I feel very happy. Remember your choice today, treat the Bulbasaur well, and you will have a surprise. After that, Joey walked out of the room first, and quietly made a gesture to Zoroark in a place where Xuanjian couldn't see. Then Zoroark showed a relieved expression, and then jumped into the arms of Xuanjian who came out later. Why do you all like to run into my arms? Xuanjian hugged Zoroark helplessly, surprised at how he and the other party suddenly became so close. Could it be that the effect of the evergreen seed was so good? Time was tight, so Xuanjian and Duoga did not stay for long, and immediately set off for Yuzu Island on the Dragonite, where the last gym of the Orange League was located, the Southern Yuzu Gym. However, on the way, the Dragonite was unexpectedly stopped by a ship. The mayor, who was supposed to stay in the city, was standing on the deck at this time, surrounded by fully armed bodyguards. After stopping the Dragonite, the mayor shouted to Xuanjian, "Boy, hand over the Bulbasaur. It's useless to give it to you, right? Why not give it to me?" Xuanjian said, not wanting to conflict with the other party. After all, the league has regulations that trainers cannot use Pokémon to attack others at will, and the other party is the mayor after all, not an ordinary person. Don't talk nonsense. That Bulbasaur is a stain on my life. In order to avoid being used by my opponents in the future, I must completely eliminate it. The mayor said, then took the laser gun from a bodyguard, pointed it at the sea and fired a shot. A fish with a shot through its belly immediately floated on the sea. See, this is the power of laser weapons. Before, it was because the place was small and the number of bodyguards was small, so we suffered a loss. Now it's different. Xuanjian looked at the densely packed and fully armed bodyguards around the mayor, sighed, and said, "Alice, there is no way. The sea is really not suitable for fighting." Then he took out a Pokeball from his waist and threw it at the other party. "You are sensible." The mayor caught the Pokeball thrown by Xuanjian, waved to the bodyguards around him, and signaled them to withdraw. "Are you sure if what I gave you is a Bulbasaur? Maybe it's a Magikarp?" Xuanjian kindly reminded. The mayor glanced at Xuanjian, and then, under the protection of the bodyguards, he opened the Pokeball, and suddenly, a blue giant beast rushed out. As soon as Gyarados appeared, it immediately roared to the sky, and then stared at the guys in front of it who didn't look like good people. Under its gaze, the intimidation characteristics were brought to the extreme. If it weren't for its well-trained training, these bodyguards would have been scared to the point of peeing their pants like the mayor. "Oh, sorry, I forgot to say that Magikarp seems to have evolved not long ago," Xuanjian said with a smirk on his lips, and then opened another Pokeball, put Bulbasaur on the back of the Dragonite, touched its head and said, "The sea is not suitable for you to fight, so you can't punish that guy yourself, but it doesn't matter, Gyarados will help you." Seed Bulbasaur gently rubbed Xuanjian's hand, stretched out the vine whip and wrapped around Xuanjian's waist, expressing its attachment. Shoot quickly. Isn't it just a Gyarados? I don't believe it can deal with the latest laser weapons," the mayor shouted desperately. Hearing his order, his bodyguards pulled the trigger tremblingly and shot lasers at Gyarados. Looking at the laser that almost drowned Gyarados, Xuanjian smiled disdainfully. "What a naive guy. You don't think you can deal with a Gyarados like this? Do you really think that the rules of the league are because the league is afraid of you?" In the eyes of some people, the league's prohibition of trainers from attacking ordinary people at will is a compromise with secular forces, but in Xuanjian's view, this is just the league's belief that peace can bring more benefits to trainers. After all, once a trainer who can control elves becomes powerful, the damage caused is too great. Gyarados, just sink their boat. After all, although no one sees it, I still can't bring myself to kill these guys. What? The mayor couldn't believe it. With such a powerful attack, Gyarados is still alive? Then, a roar followed by a sudden increase in pressure answered his doubts. Gyarados was seen with a layer of golden energy film on his body. It was the skill of guarding. Under the skill, Gyarados was unharmed. After hearing Xuanjian's order, Gyarados raised his tail fiercely and used Earthquake on the deck. Under the huge force, not only the bodyguards were shaken to the ground, but also the deck was shattered by Gyarados. The Gyarados that fell into the cabin spewed out a powerful dragon's fury, which directly penetrated the bottom of the ship, and then drilled out. Then it opened its mouth and fired its favorite destruction death ray at the engine part, which not only destroyed the engine but also caused an explosion. I think it would be better to replace the destruction death ray with a billion-ton shock wave. What do you think? Xuanjian asked Duoge. Indeed, after all, the destruction death ray is a special attack move. Duoga nodded and said seriously, "By the way, it's getting late, let's hurry up." "Well, okay. Let's say goodbye to the other side together." "Bulbasaur," Xuanjian said, and then pulled Bulbasaur's vine whip, waved to the people who were fighting the fire on the carrier ship, and said, "Bye, everyone, I wish you good luck. Get rescued before the ship sinks completely. Don't talk nonsense when the people from the League investigate. I didn't attack you, it was you who provoked Gyarados first, causing it to lose its temper. After all, Gyarados' bad temper is well known, and as a trainer, it's also a headache for me when it goes crazy." Hearing Xuanjian's words, Duog also joined in the fun. "Yes, we also tried our best to stop Gyarados from attacking them directly. There are not many good people like us. Right, Zoroark?" Zoroark on Xuanjian's shoulder nodded, as if to say, "That's it." Chapter 157 Orange Gym. The Yuzu Island, where the southern gym is located, is a dangerous island. It is surrounded by huge rocks. The seemingly calm sea surface is covered with countless undercurrents and whirlpools, which look like its wheel badge. However, with the help of Chenglong, the two of them safely passed through this dangerous sea. The owner of the Yuzu Gym is A, the Southern Star, a gym owner who looks more like a coordinator. After explaining their purpose, A warmly received the two. "Although you have obtained 3 badges, theoretically this test is not a problem for you, but we still have to follow the rules to conduct the target shooting test first. Is there any problem?" A asked Xuanjian. "No problem. Then please come with me." Then, the group boarded the speedboat and drove on the Yuzu River. "Come out, Bulbasaur. Let me see your strength." Bulbasaur is a newly captured Pokémon that has not been trained. He does not know how strong he is. It is just suitable for appearing in this kind of test that is not difficult. It can not only complete the test, but also run in with each other. Bulbasaur, use Leaf Blade to smash the targets that jump out. Bulbasaur nodded, and shot Leaf Blades from its back, shooting at the targets along the way. Under the Leaf Blade, the targets were smashed one by one. "Well done," Xuanjian praised. He was worried that Bulbasaur might be lacking in skill firing speed and skill hit rate due to long-term free range, but now it seems that he was worrying in vain. Bulbasaur is not only of a high level, but also has a very good grasp of skills, and has reached the elite level. Hearing Xuanjian's praise, Bulbasaur was very happy, and sent out Leaf Blade more vigorously, smashing the targets along the way one by one, allowing Xuanjian to pass the test smoothly. "I have confirmed your strength after passing the test, so we will have a formal battle tomorrow. According to the rules of special battles, you have to send out 4 Pokémon with different attributes, and I will send out Pokémon with the same attribute as you for a one-on-one battle. If there is no problem, please confirm the Pokémon you want to send." A said. "No problem." Xuanjian nodded, "Then I will send out the Bug-type Butterfree, the Water-type Gemstar, the Electric-type Electabuzz, and the Grass-type Leaf Pokémon." "Okay, I understand." AE nodded, "Then please have a good rest in the gym. We will have the competition tomorrow morning." The next morning, Xuanjian, led by AE, came to the competition venue on top of the stone pillar outside the island and had a gym battle in this very dangerous place. Yuzu Gym Challenge, the first game, the Electric-type Pokémon Duel, Go, Electabuzz. AE first summoned his own Pokémon, which is the evolution of Electabuzz, Electabuzz. Even if the opponent is Electabuzz, we will not admit defeat. Go, Electabuzz. It's a disadvantage to use a pre-evolved Pokémon to fight against your own evolved form. "Are you sure you want to do this?" A kindly reminded. "Well, no problem, I believe in Electabuzz," Xuanjian said. "Okay, then I'll see how strong your Electabuzz is." Electabuzz, use Thunder Punch. Looking at the Electabuzz rushing over quickly, Xuanjian's expression became solemn. Although Electabuzz is much stronger than its peers under his training, it is still a certain gap compared to the evolved Classicman. This is the time to test his level as a trainer. Electabuzz, use Cross Chop to block it. Electabuzz raised his arms and crossed them into a cross, facing the electric fist of Electabuzz. It may not have the confidence to compete with the enemy in the electric-type tricks, but in fighting, it does not believe that it will lose to this evolved kind. Seeing that Electabuzz's attack was firmly parried by Electabuzz, A was a little surprised. Taking this opportunity, Xuanjian ordered, "Electabuzz, kick it down." Electabuzz, who received the order, grabbed Electabuzz's shoulders with both hands and kicked the opponent's lower body with both feet. Caught off guard, Electabuzz was kicked to the ground. "Okay, Electabuzz, give it another cross attack." Seeing the opponent fall to the ground, Xuanjian cheered loudly and continued to give orders. "I won't let you succeed. AE also recovered from his surprise and ordered, Electabuzz, 100,000 volts. Electabuzz fell to the ground at this time. If he used fighting skills, he would be at a disadvantage. It would be better to use electrical skills to fight. When Electabuzz was hit by the cross attack, the current it emitted also hit Electabuzz. Although the power of 100,000 volts was greatly reduced due to its attributes, Electabuzz was also greatly damaged. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Electabuzz quickly climbed up from the ground and stood in front of Electabuzz again, panting. Electabuzz, Arm Hammer. Electabuzz, use Lightning Flash. Under Xuanjian's command, Electabuzz swung its strong arms and smashed Electabuzz. Electabuzz also concentrated all its strength to hit Electabuzz. The skills of both sides hit each other at the same time, and finally lost their combat effectiveness at the same time. The first round, the electrical duel, a draw. The referee announced. After taking back the incapable electric beast, AE said, "You are very strong, but I will not give up easily. Come out, coconut tree." Xuanjian also took back the incapable electric beast and said, "Just what I want. Come on, leaf elf." Seeing the leaf elf, AE was not too surprised and directly issued an order to the coconut tree. Coconut tree, use bombs. The coconut tree shook its head and threw bombs at the leaf elf, but it was easily dodged by the leaf elf. Although there was no sunny skill enhancement at this time, the bright sunshine in the sky made the leaf elf's characteristics also play some, and the speed was greatly improved. While dodging, the leaf elf gradually approached the body of the coconut tree. Leaf elf, leaf blade. Seeing the leaf elf approaching the coconut tree, Xuanjian immediately ordered. The leaves on the top of the leaf elf's head lit up and turned into a sharp leaf blade, which slashed at the coconut tree fiercely. Xuanjian originally thought that this attack was a sure thing, but he didn't expect that the coconut tree would dodge by a slight deviation, allowing the leaf elf's blade to hit the air. "How could I let you succeed so easily?" AE lifted his bangs on his forehead and said proudly, then snapped his fingers. Music. Then, the assistant in the sky took out a tape recorder and played a beautiful waltz. In the sound of music, the coconut tree spun its huge body and danced. This is the unique skill of AE, who is called the Star of the South, dancing. "You are worthy of being the Star of the South," Xuanjian exclaimed. There is no dancing skill among the skills that the coconut tree can learn, but the opponent actually let it imitate this skill through training, which greatly enhanced its dodging ability. It's amazing. But my leaf elf is not weak either. Let's see if your dance steps can be faster than my leaf blade. Leaf elf, sunny day. Click monsters and electric beasts made me dizzy at that. Chapter 158 Orange Gym. With the blessing of the sunny day, the bright sunlight in the sky became even hotter. In this fiery sunlight, the leaf elf felt comfortable and ran on the field. Xuanjian could even feel that the leaf elf's speed had faintly exceeded the theoretical value and was moving towards a higher standard. The coconut tree next to it also enjoyed the benefits of the sunny day and became faster. Leaf elf, continuous leaf blade attack. Even if the leaf blade hit the coconut tree, it would not be effective, but this is the most powerful skill that the leaf elf can use at present. Like all trainers whose strength is rapidly improving, poor moves are a big hurdle on Xuanjian's way forward, and only time can accumulate and make up for it. The leaf elf, which was so fast that it was almost impossible to catch, quickly approached the coconut tree. With the blessing of the sun, the leaves on its forehead really turned into a green sword, constantly slashing at the coconut tree. The coconut tree kept twisting its huge body to dodge. Its fat body was extremely flexible, and it actually made nearly half of the leaf elf's attacks miss. But if you defend too long, you will lose. AE understood this principle very well. Seeing that the coconut tree had been chopped by the leaf blades, and as the leaf elf became familiar with the coconut tree's dance steps, the number of times the coconut tree successfully dodged was decreasing. He ordered, "Coconut tree, sunshine and blazing sun." Under such strong sunlight, sunshine and blazing sun almost did not need to make any preparations. A golden sunlight immediately gathered on the leaves above the coconut tree and shot at the leaf elf. Leaf elf, don't stop the leaf blades, use photosynthesis at the same time. With the speed of the leaf elf, it is still possible to avoid sunshine and blazing sun, but in this way, the battle rhythm that has been controlled with great difficulty will be lost, which is very disadvantageous for the leaf elf who is positioned as a physical attacker. However, Xuanjian had to consider the damage caused by the coconut tree's sunshine and blazing flame. With an idea, Xuanjian chose to let the leaf elf use photosynthesis to see if he could absorb some of the sunshine and blazing sun and reduce some of the damage. The scorching sun shone on the leaf elf, making it feel like it was in a furnace. The leaf elf endured the pain of being burned by the scorching sun and started photosynthesis. The moment the skill was activated, the leaf elf felt a large amount of scorching energy pouring into the body from the outside of the skin. This scorching energy was not as gentle as the sunlight absorbed before, but was extremely violent, constantly causing damage to the body, making it extremely painful. At this time, averted energy was generated from deep inside the body, constantly absorbing the violent external energy, while constantly repairing the body, bringing waves of comfort. In the pain of the destruction and the comfort after the repair, the leaf elf felt that his body was like a piece of pig iron, being constantly beaten and tempered, becoming stronger and stronger. After gradually getting used to it, the leaf elf even felt addicted, and couldn't help but close his eyes to enjoy the tempering process. But the sun is not endless. The coconut egg tree's skill soon ended, and the energy absorbed by the body turned into gentle sunlight again, and the averted energy in the body disappeared again deep inside the body. The leaf elf opened his eyes with regret and looked at the coconut tree with regret, but then he was replaced by a determined fighting spirit. Leaf Blade. The leaf elf used this skill again, but this time, the leaves on his hut became twice as wide as before, and he chopped down fiercely at the somewhat confused coconut tree. Boom! The leaf blade hit the coconut tree accurately, and the huge force smashed it into the rock on the ground. This blow was so powerful that it made it lose its combat effectiveness. Second round, Grass-type duel, the leaf elf won. Come back, coconut tree, you did a good job. A took back the coconut tree. This round was beyond his expectations. He didn't expect that the leaf elf could actually start photosynthesis under the sun and flames. After all, this skill is actually similar to the photosynthesis of plants. It is not that the stronger the sunlight, the better. Well done, leaf elf. Xuanjian touched the leaf elf's head and praised him. He just wanted to take a gamble, but he didn't expect it to succeed. At the same time, Xuanjian keenly noticed that the color of the leaf elf's body surface had become a little darker, but now was not the time to study this, so he could only take it back first. The next third match was a duel between water-type elves. This time, both sides once again took out the same water-type elf, Gem Starfish. It was not that Xuanjian did this on purpose, but the venue was too small and it was not suitable for the huge Gyarados to perform. I didn't expect that our vision was so consistent, and even the elves we used were very similar. A exclaimed. The previous electric monster and now the gem starfish, it is rare to encounter two identical elves in a gym match. Yes, I also think it is very fate. Why don't we let them decide the outcome? Xuanjian suggested. Good idea. Then let's start. A said. As A's voice fell, the two gem starfish sprayed water guns at each other at the same time. The two water guns shot together, and it was difficult to tell who was better. Then, A's gem starfish danced again to the rhythm of the music and dodged the opponent's water gun. But Xuanjian's gem starfish was not easy to deal with either. It was an elf that could shoot as well as Sea Thorn Dragon. After seeing the opponent dodge, it immediately used multiple water guns, completely blocking the opponent's space to dodge and knocking it down. But the water gun skill obviously did not work well on the same type of water-type creatures. A's gem starfish was only interrupted from dancing, and it was not hurt much. After being forced to stop dancing, A's gem starfish immediately used 100,000 volts on the opponent, and Xuanjian's gem starfish also fought back with 100,000 volts. In the end, both gem starfish fell under the opponent's 100,000 volts at the same time. The third round, the water-type elf duel, a draw. Silently taking back the gem starfish, both sides were a little helpless. The two gem starfish were extremely similar in level, strength and skills, and this duel was impossible to win. Fortunately, the leaf elf played exceptionally well, and now Xuanjian is leading by winning one round. Come out, Mythrabbit, let's have our final showdown with the bug Pokémon. That's what I meant. Come on, Butterfree. As both are bug Pokémon, Mythrabbit has an advantage in race value, while Butterfree has an advantage in attributes. In this round, the two sides are evenly matched. At the moment of their appearance, neither side chose to attack the other, but chose to strengthen themselves. Butterfly Dance. Both sides chose this bug Pokémon's strengthening skill. The two Pokémons flapped their beautiful wings at the same time and danced in the air, looking particularly beautiful. Seeing the opponent's actions, both sides smiled knowingly, and then each issued the next command. Mothrabbit, use Silver Wind. Mothrabbit gently flapped its wings, letting the scales on it fall continuously, and shot towards Butterfree in the wind blades that were raised. However, compared with a normal Silver Wind, the Silver Wind emitted by Mothrabbit has a layer of light purple, which looks more mysterious and beautiful. Seeing the lavender wind blade, Xuanjian immediately ordered, Butterfree, use Mystic Guard. Compared with Butterfree with the insect flying attribute, the insect poison attribute of the moth is undoubtedly much stronger in poison skills. The Silver Wind is originally mixed with a scale powder of insect elves. As long as these scale powders are quietly replaced, it is not difficult to turn this skill into poison skill. For all butterfly elves, this is not difficult. Seeing the light of Mystic Guardian on Butterfree, A felt regretful. With the existence of Mystic Guardian, the 3 powder skills and poison skills that add negative status to the opponent are basically ineffective. Under the Mystic Guardian, the poison powder in the Silver Wind did not work and only caused negligible damage to Butterfree. Looking at AE, who looked regretful, Xuanjian said, "It's a good idea, but unfortunately I have used similar tactics before, so I won't be fooled. Now it's my turn to fight back. Butterfree, use Psychic Power." Seeing Butterfree sending Psychic Power to Moth, AE didn't dare to neglect it. After all, Moth's resistance to psychic skills was not as strong as Butterfree. Moth, let's use Psychic Power to block it back. The 2 waves collided violently in the air, and even produced squeaky sparks under the fierce conflict. Although Moth has a much higher racial value, these higher racial values are not very reasonably distributed, and there is almost no enhancement for special attack. Butterfree, as a hidden flash elf, is naturally good at psychic skills. After the collision, it quickly gained the upper hand, and the psychic power overwhelmed the opponent, causing huge damage to Moth. Knowing that it is very disadvantageous to compete with the opponent in mental power, AE immediately changed the order. Moth, use Swallow Return. Since I can't overwhelm you in special attack, let's have a close combat. Xuanjian saw his opponent's plan and shook his head and said, "It's useless, Butterfree clones." With a speed that was 1 level faster than Butterfree, Butterfree drew a beautiful arc in the air and crashed into Butterfree from behind, but Butterfree was not slow either. While dancing the butterfly dance, it created a large number of clones that filled the sky, leaving Butterfree empty-handed. Butterfree, Violent Storm. Seeing the butterfly shadows all over the sky, AE knew that he was completely at a disadvantage. If he let Butterfree complete this time, Butterfree's attributes would surpass Butterfree in all aspects, and his hope of winning would be even slimmer. As Butterfree's wings flapped rapidly, whirlwinds were generated, sweeping across the entire sky, sweeping away the butterfly shadows in the sky, but AE unexpectedly did not find Butterfree. "It's time to end," Xuanjian said, and then Butterfree flapped its wings and flew up from the sky below the battle platform. Under the cover of its shadow clone, it hid in the sky below the platform, used its visual blind spot to avoid the attack of the moth, and successfully completed the butterfly dance. After 2 butterfly dances, Butterfree has completely surpassed the moth in terms of attributes. Butterfree, Mental Power. Following Xuanjian's command, Butterfree raised its antennae, and a lavender mental wave rushed towards the moth. Facing Butterfree's powerful attack, AE did not give up, but tried to let the moth dodge the attack with the most familiar dance steps. Moth, Butterfly dance to avoid it. Unfortunately, not everyone can create miracles by persistence. Mental attacks are difficult to avoid, and Butterfree's speed has completely surpassed the moth. The mental power successfully hit the moth, and under the restraint of its attributes, the moth fell down unwillingly. In the 4th round, the bug match, Butterfree won. The winner of the Yuzu Gym Challenge is Mr. Gemma. After taking back the moth, AE walked to Gemma and handed him the wheel badge and 2 skill machines, which symbolized the successful challenge to the Yuzu Gym. "Congratulations on your victory. This is your reward." "Thank you." Gemma accepted the reward and said, "It was a wonderful game, and your Pokemon danced beautifully." "Thank you for the compliment." AE smiled helplessly, but it is indeed a problem that the Pokemon's combat effectiveness is not greatly improved. Maybe I should try to become a coordinator. Chapter 159 King of Kings Guidance Competition. After obtaining the Wheel Treasure Badge, Xuanjian and Duoga quickly rode the dragon back to the metropolis and signed up before the registration ended. By the way, Xuanjian asked Miss Joy about the mayor's situation and was relieved to learn that he had mysteriously disappeared and had not returned yet. After all, if the mayor returned smoothly, it would bring him a lot of trouble. The competition was imminent, and he really didn't want to distract himself for these trivial matters. In the room of the Pokémon Center, Xuanjian checked the two newly acquired skill machines, namely the baton and the poison arrow, two very useful skills, but unfortunately they were not what he urgently needed at the moment. However, it was very conscientious for the Yuzu Gym to give this kind of skill machine. After all, skill machines like Billion Impact and Destruction Death Ray, which are extremely powerful and can be learned by almost all Pokémon, have always been in short supply. When Xuanjian was thinking, the door of the room was suddenly knocked. When he opened the door, there was a handsome green-haired man wearing a cowboy hat and carrying a travel bag, leaning against the door railing. When he saw Xuanjian, he politely said, "Hello. I'm Tick, sorry to bother you." "It's okay, what's the matter?" "It's like this, because there are many people staying at the Pokémon Center, the rooms are a bit tight, and Miss Joy arranged me in this room. Can you let me in first?" Of course, Xuanjian leaned sideways and let the other party enter the room. With the arrival of the peak tourist season and the holding of the King's Guidance Tournament, a large number of trainers gathered in big cities. Not only are the hotels doing a booming business, but even the Pokémon Center has become so lively that Miss Joy has to arrange for multiple trainers to stay in one room. "Are you here to participate in the King's Guidance Tournament as well?" Xuanjian leaned against the door and asked the other party. Of course, Tick turned around, lifted her bangs, and said with shining eyes, "Miss Kona, who is both beautiful and powerful, is my goddess. How could I miss such an opportunity to get close to her? In order to meet Miss Kona, I came all the way from home." Xuanjian nodded and stretched out his hand. "Then let me introduce myself. My name is Xuanjian. I am also going to participate in this King Guidance competition. We will be opponents." Shaking hands with Xuanjian, Tick proudly adjusted the brim of his hat and said, "It is your luck and misfortune to meet such a handsome and powerful opponent like me. Don't worry, if I meet you, I will show mercy. I am the champion of the last Hone Gorgeous competition. By the way, do you want to use the bathroom?" Xuanjian was a little surprised by the other party's championship status, but was a little confused by the other party's sudden change, so he had to reply, "No, what's wrong?" "That's great." Tick took off the hat on his head and threw it on the bed, rubbing his meticulously groomed green long hair, and said, "Since I set out from home a month ago, I have challenged 4 gyms in a row. I haven't had a good spa for a long time. My smooth and silky skin has aged a lot. I want to do a 5-hour spa to recover. You rest first, don't wait for me." He quickly rushed into the bathroom with his travel bag. Xuanjian's forehead was full of black lines. 5 hours of spa, is that guy's bag full of toiletries? The next morning, after introducing Tick to Duogi, the three of them came to the competition venue together. Here, all trainers will compete, and the final winner will get guidance from Kona. Of course, other players with good results can also get a considerable bonus. Water venue. "Oh, I only brought a water Pokémon this time." Tick looked at the venue in front of him and said helplessly. In the battle on the water venue, in addition to the electrical attribute, the water attribute is the most advantageous. Isn't it obvious? Xuanjian said, "Miss Kona is the king of water and ice. The climate in the Orange Islands is hot, and it is not easy to make and preserve ice venues. Of course, we choose water venues." "That's right," Tick nodded, "but the open-air venue is really not good. My fair skin will be tanned again. Did you apply 3 kinds of sunscreen on purpose this morning? But the sunlight in the Orange Islands is much stronger than in other Hone." Ignoring this hypocritical guy, Xuanjian began to look for his own match arrangements. The first match was conducted in a 1 versus 1 mode. Due to the restrictions on the competition conditions, not many people were qualified to participate, but they were all trainers with some strength. Soon, Xuanjian found his name and group, and came to the venue to wait. The opponent in the first match was a trainer using a red warrior base, while Xuanjian took out a Gyarados. Although Gyarados evolved earlier than the gem starfish, it has always lacked combat experience, so it was a good opportunity to train. Gyarados. The trainer of warrior base looked extremely unhappy when he saw the Pokémon released by Xuanjian. It was well known that Gyarados was powerful, but not many trainers could successfully control it. He did not expect that he would actually meet one. Gyarados' huge size and ferocious face were still very intimidating. Coupled with its intimidation characteristics, not only the opponent's trainer was affected, but even Warrior Base, who always had a hot temper, was frightened and swam around in the water uncomfortably. Xuanjian was very satisfied with this. After all, there were not many powerful opponents in the early stage, so there was no need to waste too much time on them. The effect of the intimidation characteristic was actually far more powerful than the theoretical data said, because it not only affected the Pokémon on the field, but also the trainer who controlled the Pokémon. When the trainer and the Pokémon were affected at the same time, the effect produced was 1 + 1 greater than 2. Under the influence of Gyarados' intimidating characteristics, the trainer on the other side, who was obviously a little nervous, hurriedly issued an order to Warrior Base, use Water Jet. After receiving the order, Warrior Base barely suppressed his fear, and a circle of water rose around his body. Surrounded by the water, he rushed towards Gyarados' lower jaw, which was a vital part of Gyarados. Once hit, it would cause huge damage. Xuanjian shook his head. Gyarados' poor physical defense was indeed a disadvantage, but such a large body was not for show. How could such a rash frontal attack be effective? Then Xuanjian ordered, Gyarados, use Storm, and then use Bite. The moment Gyarados received the order, a gust of wind rolled up around its body, rolling the water in the pool into the air, forming a layer of water curtain. Under the obstruction of the storm and the water curtain, Warrior Base's speed slowed down greatly, and he was bitten by Gyarados' big mouth just after passing through the water curtain. Under the powerful bite force of Gyarados, Warrior Base could only struggle a few times, and then lost his combat effectiveness. Throwing away the warrior perch that had lost its fighting power in its mouth, Gyarados roared to the sky, and activated its overconfidence feature, which increased its attack and made it even more powerful. Xuanjian thought with some regret, it's a pity that the two games are not consecutive, otherwise it would be better for Gyarados to participate in the competition in its current state. Then he took back Gyarados and walked towards the rest area under the scrutiny of many contestants. Chapter 160 King of Kings Guidance Competition. Not all players can solve their opponents as neatly as Xuanjian, so Xuanjian waited until the afternoon for the second game. This time, the opponent also used a very rare Pokémon in the Kanto region, Jigglypuff. After a round of screening, the opponent was obviously much stronger than the opponent in the morning. At least under the intimidation of Gyarados, the opponent's Pokémon was a little flustered, but soon calmed down under the comfort of the trainer. Xuanjian looked at the blue figure floating in the water and became a little more serious. Gyarados, use Dragon's Fury. Jigglypuff may have 3 characteristics, which is difficult to judge from the appearance, so Xuanjian did not dare to use water skills at will, but used Dragon's Fury with fixed damage to attack. Seeing the blue energy spraying out of Gyarados' mouth, Jigglypuff's trainer did not dare to neglect it and immediately asked Jigglypuff to intercept. Jigger, use Water Spray. Unlike most water Pokémon like Jigglypuff are almost entirely made of water. When attacking, they do not use energy to condense water to attack, but directly spray the water in their bodies. Therefore, the better they preserve their physical strength, the more powerful their skills will be. When their physical strength is not damaged, the power of their attacks is almost comparable to that of the Destruction Light. I saw that the originally huge body of Chubby suddenly compressed, and then a stream of water sprayed out from its final high speed, not only blocking the Dragon's Fury of Gyarados, but also overwhelmed the power of the Dragon's Fury and shot at Gyarados. Although Gyarados, as a water-type Pokémon, has a strong resistance to water-type skills, it was still knocked to the ground by the powerful impact of the water flow. Fortunately, the amount of water stored in Chubby's body is limited. Although such an attack is powerful, it lasts very short. After completing the attack, Chubby immediately hid back in the water, replenished water, and waited for the opportunity to attack next time. Gyarados, calm down. Xuanjian comforted Gyarados, who became a little furious because of Chubby's attack. Hearing Xuanjian's voice, Gyarados calmed down a little, and the bloodshot in his eyes gradually dissipated. Seeing Gyarados calm down, Xuanjian also breathed a sigh of relief. This time, the opponent was very tough, and it could be said that he had used the advantages of the water field to the extreme. Chubby's soft and water-filled body was not affected by the water at all. Physical skills could hardly cause damage to it in the water, and special attack skills were seriously weakened by the water. Gyarados had not learned electrical skills, so it was very difficult to cause effective damage to the opponent. Looking at the water surface, Xuanjian noticed that Chubby's body was swelling up little by little, and it was almost recovering to its original size. Xuanjian knew that when it recovered to its original size, it would be time to launch a water spray attack again. Although Gyarados was very resistant to water, if it continued like this, its physical strength would be worn out little by little. After some thinking, Xuanjian finally made up his mind. Gyarados, use leap, jump high. Hearing Xuanjian's order, Gyarados, who was suppressing his temper, cheered, and his powerful tail slapped the water surface heavily, and jumped out of the pool. Since the Magikarp period, jumping has been something it is very good at, not to mention the blessing of flying energy. Seeing the huge body of Gyarados leaping out of the pool and rising into the sky like a bird, the onlookers were talking to each other, not understanding Xuanjian's purpose. After all, although Gyarados has a flying attribute, it does not mean that it can fly. Even if it jumps higher, it will fall down in the end, which is just a waste of effort. Xuanjian did not have time to care about these people's thoughts. When he saw that Gyarados was about to reach the highest point of the jump, he shouted out the next command, Gyarados, use Water Jet. The companionship since childhood has made Gyarados and Xuanjian almost reach the state of spiritual communication. When he heard Xuanjian's order, Gyarados immediately understood Xuanjian's purpose. Then, Gyarados let out an excited roar, turned his body, and violent water energy surged from his body, pushing it to smash into the pool below. Looking at the giant beast falling from the sky, everyone was stunned. The double acceleration brought by gravity and water jets made Gyarados rush towards Jigglypuff in the water almost like a missile. With Jigglypuff's huge size and slow speed, it was almost impossible for him to dodge this attack. Amid the exclamations of the crowd, this missile hit the pool heavily and hit Jigglypuff's soft body. The impact brought by Gyarados was so huge that the water in the pool was stirred up by it and splashed several meters high, spilling outside the pool. When the water surface was completely calm, the water in the pool was only half of the original. Gyarados, are you okay? Xuanjian asked with some concern. This attack was just his sudden whim. The effect of the attack could be seen from the half of the water left in the pool, but it was unknown whether Gyarados was hurt. Roar, the giant beast crawling in the pool stood up again, turned its head and showed Xuanjian a ferocious smile, and what was left of it was Jigglypuff, who was used as a landing cushion. Under the impact of Gyarados, Chubby's soft body played a good role in cushioning, so that Gyarados was almost not hurt, but it had lost its fighting power. Looking at Xuanjian and Gyarados, the opponent did not speak, silently put away Chubby and left. After Xuanjian comforted Gyarados a little, he also left the venue. He had already won 2 games and had already qualified. The next game was the official 2 versus 2 match, and he had to go back and prepare well. Back to the Pokémon Center, Xuanjian saw Tick, who was in the same room with him, as expected. This guy qualified before him. With good strength and handsome appearance, he immediately captured the hearts of a lot of girls. At this time, he was surrounded by a group of girls, constantly boasting about his travel experience and enjoying the girls' admiring eyes. Ignoring that guy, Xuanjian walked to a table and sat down. Duoga had already prepared dinner for him. Xuanjian asked while eating, "How is the intelligence collection going?" "Almost," Duoga answered while stirring a glass of milk. "Although most trainers are strong, there is still a gap compared to you. Tick and another trainer named Afeti may be more threatening to you. Tick used a Golduck to crush the opponent today, while Afeti used Blastoise and Coral respectively, and both Pokemon are very powerful. I have also collected information on other players, you can take a look later." Xuanjian nodded and said, "Thank you for your hard work." "Nothing," Duoga shook his head indifferently. "After all, meeting Lord Kona is one of my wishes. I can't do it myself, so I can only ask you for it. Don't worry, leave it to me." Chapter 161 King of Kings Guidance Competition. The most suitable beach for vacation in Xianzhou Island is already crowded with people. However, people are not enjoying the beautiful sunshine, but are gathered around the temporary competition venue, waiting for today's competition to start. In the stands, a blonde host in a bikini is holding a microphone and saying, "After yesterday's elimination, 8 excellent trainers have successfully stood out from the many contestants. Today, they will decide the winner on this beautiful beach. Only the final winner can get the guidance of the King of Kona. Who will it be?" Let's wait and see. Now, please invite all the contestants to come on stage. Let's go, we should go out. In the lounge, Xuanjian said to Tick beside him. This guy didn't wear a hat today, but changed into an Orange Islands style outfit. He was busy applying skincare products. It is said that these things can help him get a brown skin. It will be ready soon, you go first. Tick said as he quickly poured things from different bottles and jars onto his face. Fight well, don't lose before you meet me. You too. As the contestants came out, the atmosphere gradually became heated, and the host was also introducing the 8 contestants to the audience, trying to push the atmosphere to a higher level. But all these efforts were no match for the appearance of one person, the Ice King Kona. Compared to the others who were dressed in cool clothes, Kona was dressed in standard professional women's clothes, but this could not hide her charm. The moment she appeared, the attention of the whole audience was immediately attracted to her, and people shouted her name loudly, as if they were worshipping a queen. Kona was accustomed to this kind of scene. After waving to the audience, she walked straight into the commentary seat. She would be the guest of today's game and comment on the game. While thinking about when he could have the popularity of Kona, Xuanjian quickly came to his own venue. Xuanjian looked at his opponent. He was a young man wearing beach pants and with his upper body naked. From his attire and skin color, it was clear that he was definitely a local from the Orange Islands. In the first match, Kanto's trainer Xuanjian will face Marken Islands Afeti. Please bring out your Pokémons. The referee announced, and then the audience on the field cheered loudly for the two, but it was obvious that there were far fewer people supporting Xuanjian than the other side. I didn't expect to meet the tough opponent that Duoga said in the first match. I'm really unlucky. Xuanjian thought to himself, and then threw the Pokeball that he had prepared in his hand. Go, Gyarados. Gyarados' huge body appeared on the beach, immediately causing a burst of exclamations. It was really that this Pokemon's reputation was too fierce. At the same time, the opponent also brought out his own Pokemon, which was the final form of Kanto's 3 water-type starters, Blastoise. With the referee's order, the game officially began. The barrel on Blastoise's back stretched out, gathering a strong stream of water and shooting towards Gyarados. Gyarados, Tornado and Dragon Dance. Xuanjian ordered. Gyarados' huge body twisted continuously, and it danced a mysterious dance. As its huge body twisted continuously, gusts of wind rolled up around it, and the sand on the ground was also rolled into the air, forming a tornado that stretched from sky to earth. The huge tornado carried countless sand and dust, covering the huge body of Gyarados, causing Blastoise's water cannon to lose its target and fall into the air. Taking this opportunity, Gyarados kept approaching Blastoise. Okay, that's it, use Repay. After hearing Xuanjian's order, Afei woke up in shock. The deterrent power of the tornado that just filled the sky was too great. Seeing that Gyarados' thick tail had already carried the dust and sand all over the sky, and was slamming down towards Blastoise from the air, Fei quickly ordered, Blastoise, defend. Upon hearing the order, Blastoise retracted into its shell at an extremely agile speed, and at the same time a layer of silver light flowed on its body. It was obvious that it had used the 2 skills of Shrinking Shell and Iron Wall to improve its defense. Then the huge dragon's tail, carrying the dust and sand all over the sky, hit Blastoise's hard shell heavily, making a loud noise. Blastoise's defensive ability is unquestionable, but Gyarados' attack is also extremely powerful. It is really hard to say who will win and who will lose. The audience held their breath and waited for the result. But for Xuanjian, it was not so troublesome. By sensing the fluctuations of life, he could judge the situation of Blastoise. Therefore, before the dust dissipated, he immediately ordered, Gyarados, use Dragon's Fury. Regarding Xuanjian's order, Gyarados executed it without hesitation. Its tail was still pressing on Blastoise's shell at this time, so even the dust in the sky could not stop him from judging Blastoise's position. A stream of blue energy immediately shot out of its big mouth at Blastoise. But it was obvious that the opponent had already waited for an opportunity to counterattack. After hearing Xuanjian's order, Blastoise immediately shot out 2 thick water guns under the prompting of the trainer to block the attack of Dragon's Fury. Xuanjian did not care that Dragon's Fury was blocked by the opponent. The damage caused by Dragon's Fury was not great, not enough to make Blastoise lose its combat effectiveness, but if it could not force Blastoise to counterattack and disrupt the opponent's rhythm, it would take more effort to defeat the opponent. However, From the moment Blastoise chose to use the water gun to block Gyarados' attack, it lost the initiative and could not use skills before Gyarados, and it was completely defeated. Thinking of this, Xuanjian ordered loudly, "Gyarados, stomp." Stomp and Earthquake seem to be two very similar skills, but in fact they are very different. The essence of Stomp is to use the power of the elves to destroy the flatness of the ground, reduce the opponent's speed, and transmit the attack at the same time. An Earthquake strikes the ground at a specific frequency to cause resonance to attack. So if the skill is removed, the destructive power of Stomp is actually higher than Earthquake. On a beach like today, the power of both Stomp and Earthquake will be greatly weakened, except for one situation, directly attacking the opponent's body as the ground. Blastoise was knocked to the ground by Gyarados with a powerful revenge before, and his body was almost completely sunk into the sand, almost unable to move. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Gyarados immediately gathered all his strength and hit Blastoise's shell heavily, blasting its body completely into the ground. But when Gyarados' heavy stomping landed on Blastoise's back, the whole audience heard a sound like a bell. Blastoise, who made this sound, was naturally not much better, and immediately lost its combat effectiveness. Blastoise has lost its combat effectiveness. The referee announced, and Faye reluctantly took out a Pokeball, took back Blastoise, and released the next Pokemon. Go, Sun Coral. Roar. Seeing the little thing in front of him, Gyarados immediately roared at it, and the unmatched momentum, under the blessing of the intimidation characteristic, made the petite Sun Coral tremble. But Faye is worthy of being a trainer that Duoga has paid attention to. In a few words, Sun Coral calmed down and launched an attack at the same time. Is this a way to treat the person in his own way? Xuanjian looked at the sandstorm in the sky and thought helplessly. As a petite Pokemon, Sun Coral is undoubtedly more suitable for swimming and fighting, but its speed is not as fast as Gyarados, so the opponent used the sandstorm skill to cover it. In the sandstorm, the rock-like Sun Coral was like a fish in water, but it was painful for Gyarados. Not only could it not attack its opponent, but it was also constantly hurt by the sandstorm, which made it irritable. I should have let Gyarados learn to pray for rain. Xuanjian thought with some annoyance. He had the skill machine for praying for rain, but he felt that this skill would not be of much use to Gyarados, so Xuanjian had never let it learn it. Now, there was only this: Gyarados, use surf. Although it was on the sand, it was not far from the sea. After Gyarados activated surf, it immediately summoned a huge wave. Under the waves, the sandstorm raised by the Sun Coral was directly extinguished. Compared to most water-type Pokemon, Sun Coral, which has rock attributes, is less immune to water. In the face of the overwhelming waves, it was immediately hurt. However, Sun Coral did not completely lose its fighting power, but immediately launched a counterattack. Sun Coral, mirror reflection. Not good. When Xuanjian heard the other party's order, he immediately realized that he had been remembered by the other party. With Gyarados' defense, it was very difficult for the other party to cause effective damage, but it would be different if the damage was directly rebounded. But at this time, Gyarados had just finished surfing and had no time to react. It was immediately hit by the light reflected from Sun Coral. Under the effect of superpowers, it immediately suffered twice the damage. Fortunately, the damage caused by Gyarados to Sun Coral was not high, so Gyarados did not lose its fighting power directly, but the injured Gyarados was completely enraged, and its long-suppressed nature was released. It realized and used Wild Dance and swinging. The huge body kept swinging wildly in the field, not only directly defeating Sun Coral, who had little physical strength, but also causing serious damage to the field. Gyarados, stop. Xuanjian ordered loudly, but after defeating Sun Coral, Gyarados' overconfidence characteristic took effect, and its strength increased dramatically. It fell into chaos again and could not listen to Xuanjian's orders at all. Seeing Gyarados out of control, the audience in the stand panicked. After all, Gyarados' reputation is too fierce. Every time it appears, it means huge destruction. If it is under the control of the trainer, people can still restrain this fear, but when Gyarados loses control, this fear can no longer be suppressed. Some spectators have even begun to crawl and want to escape. At this time, Kona in the stands took action: metallic shell, freezing ray. Then, a stream of white aurora hit Gyarados, completely freezing Gyarados' body into an icicle, completely unable to move. Xuanjian quickly took out the Pokeball and took Gyarados back. Seeing Xuanjian put away his Gyarados, Kona said, "Your Gyarados has great potential, but it has obviously not been developed yet, so every increase in power will be accompanied by chaos. You have to be more careful." "Yes, thank you, Master Kona." Xuanjian hurriedly saluted. Kona nodded, took back the armored shell, and sat down again in the image of an iceberg beauty. The originally stunned audience finally reacted and immediately burst into thunderous applause. Chapter 162 King of Kings Guidance Competition. Roar. Gyarados let out a roar of unwillingness, and then his huge body fell powerlessly on the beach. "I thought that after defeating a seeded player, I wouldn't have to spend much effort before entering the finals, but things are often not that simple." This time, Xuanjian encountered a tough opponent, not because of how strong the opponent was, but because the elves he used were actually electric elves. Although the organizer of this competition did not stipulate the types of elves to be used, after all, this competition was held in the name of Kona, so everyone assumed that the participating elves were water or ice, and the most common ones were elves with electric attributes like lanternfish. After all, most people came to participate in the competition for Kona. But there are always some guys in this world who don't play by the rules, such as Xuanjian's guy called Hojo today, who used a pure electric elf. Watching Gyarados fall under the 100,000 volts of Magnetron, the audience shouted angrily, "This is disrespectful to Lord Kona. Ban him. Unfair, ban him." The referee was also very helpless about the audience's request. He really wanted to kill this troublemaker, but there was no rule in the rules that contestants could not use electric attribute Pokemon, so he had no choice. Seeing that the referee couldn't do anything to him, Hojo put down his worries and smiled proudly at Xuanjian. "You'd better admit defeat. You can't beat me." Xuanjian didn't say anything and silently took back Gyarados. The electric attribute was too much of a restraint on Gyarados. Even if the opponent only used a 3-in-1 Magnetron, it would be difficult for Gyarados to defeat it. Although he was a little annoyed that his opponent didn't use any means, Xuanjian also knew that there was no regulation on the Pokemon used in this competition, so Xuanjian had to accept it silently. "Go, Gemstar." After taking back Gyarados, Xuanjian sent out Gemstar. Although the opponent was not graceful, he still had to win beautifully. Seeing Xuanjian take out Gemstar, Hojo breathed a sigh of relief. After all, his Pokemon were not strong. If the opponent took out Pokemon of other attributes, he would probably not win. As for Starfish, although it is not as severely restrained by electric Pokemon as Gyarados, it is still a water Pokemon and is equally afraid of electric Pokemon. Looking at Starfish, Hojo said proudly, "Starfish? The same water Pokemon? Boy, do you not understand attribute restraint, or are you too confident? How dare you use such a Pokemon?" Xuanjian shook his head. "This game is dedicated to the Queen of Kona. It is disrespectful to her to use Pokemon of other attributes. I will not use Pokemon other than water Pokemon. Too childish." Hojo shook his head. "Boy, let me tell you, only victory is the most important. Apart from victory, everything else is empty." 3-in-1 Magneto, 100,000 volts. Looking at the golden electric light rushing towards Starfish, Xuanjian did not dare to neglect it and immediately ordered, "Starfish, protective color." As the skill was used, Starfish turned into the khaki color symbolizing the earth and converted into the ground attribute. The electric current hitting it could no longer play a role and was all directed into the earth. Seeing that the opponent's skills were ineffective, Xuanjian immediately ordered, "Gem Starfish, use water cannon." The attributes of Magnetron are very good. Most attacks of the attributes will be weakened by it, but the water skills that are restrained by it are not affected. Although the attributes have changed, it has no effect on Gem Starfish's use of water cannon. Gem Starfish is very good at shooting, and the speed of Magnetron is not fast, so the water cannon hits smoothly. Under the powerful water cannon, Magnetron directly lost its combat effectiveness. Damn it! Hojo looked at Magnetron, which lost its combat effectiveness after Xuanjian's attack, and angrily took it back, and then summoned another elf. "Go, Melissa. Let's see what you can do this time." Melissa is a pure grass attribute, and it has restraints on both water and ground attributes. This time, he will definitely win. Seeing Hojo bring out another non-water attribute Pokemon to participate in the exhibition, the audience became even more angry, but this did not affect Xuanjian's mood at all. Xuanjian said lightly. You only know attribute restraint? Have you played too many gym matches? It's really boring. Attribute restraint does have a great advantage, but it is not invincible. After all, Pokémon can learn multiple skills of different attributes, and can even temporarily change their attributes. In this way, the impact of attribute restraint will be greatly weakened. Hearing Xuanjian's question, Hojo's face flashed a smug look. What if it's boring? Anyway, I will win. Melissa, use Leaf Storm. That's not necessarily true. Gemstar, use Mirror attribute. Leaf Storm is a grass attribute ultimate move with strong side effects, and it is generally not used easily. Hojo was sure that Gemstar, whether it was the ground attribute or the rock attribute, was severely restrained by the grass attribute, and Leaf Storm was enough, but he didn't expect Gemstar to use the mirror attribute skill and completely copy the attributes of Melissa. Suddenly, the color of the Gemstar changed from the earthy yellow representing the earth to the green representing plants, as if it had merged with nature. Melissa shook her beautiful body, releasing dense flying leaves, sweeping towards the Gemstar like a storm, but only causing negligible damage to it. Okay, it's our turn to fight back. Gemstar uses the freeze beam. The white cold light hit the Gemstar. Although it didn't have the courage of Kona's Metal Gear that could directly freeze Gyarados, the Gemstar didn't have the huge size of Gyarados, so the Gemstar was also frozen by the freeze beam. However, this Gemstar was obviously better than the previous 3-in-1 Magnetron. It closed its petals to protect itself before the freeze beam hit it. Although it still didn't escape the freezing in the end, the damage it suffered was much reduced. How about it? Your attribute restraint doesn't work. Your Gemstar can only slowly exhaust its physical strength in the ice. Xuanjian didn't let the Gemstar continue to attack, but provoked Hojo. Now that Melita is frozen, although she continues to suffer from the cold and her physical strength is constantly decreasing, she is also protected by the ice layer. Only when Melita breaks out of the ice will it be a good time to launch an attack. Looking at the frozen Melita and the Gemstar that has reversed its attribute disadvantage, Hojo's face is ugly. After being provoked by Xuanjian, he really ordered, Melita, Leaf Blade. Good opportunity, Gemstar, mental power. Melita's Leaf Blade just broke the ice layer outside the body and was immediately hit by the mental power sent by Gemstar. The freezing ray and the freezing had already taken away a lot of its physical strength. After being attacked by the mental power of Gemstar, Melita completely lost its fighting power. Well done, Gemstar. Xuanjian praised, and then looked up at the VIP seat. In one more game, you can get the guidance of the world's top trainer Kona. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 163 King of Kings Guidance Competition. What a fate. The opponent in the final battle is you. Tick said to Xuanjian. At this time, the two will compete for Kona's guidance, and the winner will get the championship in Kona's guidance. Xuanjian smiled and said, I am also very honored to fight against a champion of the Hone Regional Gorgeous Competition. Please give me more advice. Although Tick is a coordinator, his strength is very strong. He has fought all the way to now with only one Golduck. He is not sure of winning against him. Okay. You should also show all your strength. Only in this way can the game be gorgeous enough. Tick said, and then threw the Pokeball with an extremely chic move. Come out, my baby. As the Pokeball opened, a blue Pokemon appeared in the air, which was the water Pokemon Golduck. Golduck appeared in the air, first posed a handsome bodybuilding move, then raised his head and sent a water wave into the air, and then sprayed a white light, freezing it, and then turned it into a rotating ice ball. The ice ball rose for a while and then began to fall. Golduck immediately sent a mind hammer to it. Under the control of Golduck, the hammer of the mind hit the falling ice ball like a spinning drill, smashing the ice ball into pieces, turning it into crystal snowflakes, falling down one after another, shining beautifully in the sun. So beautiful. The audience cheered loudly as they watched the snowflakes falling all over the sky. Most people in Kanto and the Orange Alliance had never seen the Gorgeous Competition, and did not know that this was the opening performance of the Gorgeous Competition, but they were still moved by Golduck and applauded. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Tick politely saluted the audience, and Golduck also imitated Tick's movements, which aroused even more enthusiastic applause from the audience. Xuanjian looked solemn. This was not a gorgeous competition. The gorgeous opening performance could at most win the applause of the audience and cause some psychological pressure on the opponent, but it had no effect in other aspects. What really caught Xuanjian's attention was that in this set of movements, Golduck's skill connection and power control were mastered very well. Although these were the specialties of coordinators, being able to achieve this level showed that Tick was very strong. We have to cheer too. Go ahead, Gyarados. Following Xuanjian's movements, Gyarados' huge body reappeared on the field. The audience immediately felt a huge pressure. Even the applause for Golduck stopped, as if they were afraid of angering this ferocious beast. Gyarados. Not bad, you are good enough to be my opponent. Golduck, let's start our beautiful waltz. Upon hearing Tick's order, Golduck immediately raised its head and sprayed a blue ball of light into the sky. That was the weather skill Pray for Rain. The humidity at the seaside was very high, and the Pray for Rain skill quickly attracted a large rain cloud, and fine raindrops fell from the sky. After the rain fell, Golduck took brisk steps like a waltz dancer, running around Gyarados, and the speed was getting faster and faster. Pray for rain first and then look for an attack opportunity. It seems that this Golduck has the trait of easy swimming. This is similar to the chlorophyll trait of grass-type Pokémons, but the conditions for its effect are different. Gyarados is not as fast as Golduck, and now the gap is even bigger. Thinking of this, Xuanjian ordered, Gyarados, coil up your body and defend. Gyarados is originally an offensive Pokémon, and it is very disadvantageous to fight a defensive battle, but Golduck is too fast, and Gyarados can't keep up at all, let alone attack the opponent. It is better to take a defensive approach. Facing Gyarados, who curled up to defend, Golduck was a little difficult to attack. Gyarados has a huge body, which makes it easy to be attacked, but it also means that once its vital points are protected, it will be difficult to be attacked. Golduck and Gyarados are both water-attributed Pokémons, and the effects of water-type skills on each other will be greatly reduced. After some thought, Tick ordered, Gothitelle, use mud bombs. Gothitelle nodded, and immediately rolled up mud from the ground, made into balls, and smashed them at Gyarados. These balls made of sand and mud became bombs under the effect of Gothitelle's skills, and exploded after hitting Gyarados, causing a lot of damage to Gyarados. Gyarados, use Storm. Seeing Gyarados injured, Xuanjian could no longer remain indifferent. Although mud bombs could not directly determine the outcome, if they were ignored, Gyarados' injuries would accumulate and eventually be dragged down. In Gyarados' roar, storms were raised by and continuously attacked Gothitelle. Seeing this, Gothitelle had no choice but to stop attacking and kept dodging the storm's attacks with a speed far exceeding Gyarados. However, the attack area of the storm was very large. Almost every time Gothitelle had to run out of half the field to dodge, and there was no way to counterattack. In this way, the offensive and defensive situation was reversed instantly. Seeing that the attack was effective, Xuanjian was overjoyed and immediately ordered, Gyarados, continue to use the storm, speed up a little. Gyarados nodded. It was extremely excited to be the attacking party again. It once again sent a powerful storm towards Golduck. The storm swept almost the entire venue. Although the large amount of sands mixed in it greatly increased its power, Golduck could only dodge the most powerful part, and could not completely avoid its extended damage. Its body was scratched by the gravel in the wind, leaving small wounds, and the speed of dodging was getting slower and slower. Xuanjian's attention was also attracted by the fierce battle between the two. He did not notice that Gyarados' originally coiled body was constantly loosening and changing to regular posture that was more conducive to attacking. Dodging requires a lot of physical strength. Golduck's speed was getting slower and slower, and it was panting heavily, and it seemed to be reaching its limit. But for some reason, Xuanjian, who was clearly in the upper hand, felt something was wrong. After thinking about it, Xuanjian decided to use a Gyarados to test it. Gyarados, use Dragon's Fury. When Xuanjian gave the order, Tick suddenly said, now. Golduck, Strange Light. After the order, the eyes of Golduck, which had originally looked exhausted and listless, immediately glowed with brilliance, and immediately recovered its spirits, without any trace of exhaustion just now. After Golduck gently dodged Dragon's Fury by turning sideways, a dark purple light immediately lit up between its eyebrows and shot towards Gyarados' ferocious head. Not good. Xuanjian saw the light that lit up between Golduck's eyebrows and immediately felt something was wrong, but at this time Gyarados had stretched out its body and could not use its huge body to dodge. It could only watch the purple strange light hit Gyarados' eyes without any deviation. Generally speaking, it is difficult for high-level and powerful Pokémon to be subjected to states such as hypnosis and confusion, but Gyarados is an exception. Because its power grew too fast when it evolved from Magikarp to Gyarados, it was difficult for it to control its own huge power. If it was not careful, it would fall into chaos, not to mention the influence of skills. After the strange light hit Gyarados' eyes, Gyarados immediately fell into chaos. Damn! I was careless. If I was calmer and not lured by the opponent and attacked desperately, then Gyarados could have buried its head in the circle formed by its body to avoid it when the opponent used the strange light, instead of being hit without any resistance and falling into chaos. As expected, it is worthy of being the champion of the gorgeous competition. It is really amazing. Looking at the Gyarados in a state of confusion, Tick said, then it's almost over now. Gyarados is a Pokemon that tends to be chaotic. Before the skill ends, it is basically impossible to break free from the chaos. The next step is to wear down Gyarados' physical strength bit by bit. Gothitelle, use Shadow Claw to attack Gyarados' jaw. Most trainers thought that a large Pokemon like Gyarados must have excellent physical defense, so they would subconsciously use special attack skills on it, but truly skilled trainers knew that this Pokemon was completely excellent in physical attack and special defense. As long as the weakness was found, physical skills would be more effective. A dark purple ghost mist rose from the sharp claws of Gothitelle, and it fiercely grabbed the jaw of Gyarados in chaos. Gyarados, get out of the way. Or do something else. Xuanjian shouted at Gyarados. Although he knew that it would be difficult for Gyarados in a state of confusion to hear his words and react, Xuanjian was still unwilling to give up hope. Gothitelle's Shadow Claw hit Gyarados' jaw. Even in the chaos, the body's instinct did not disappear. Gyarados immediately let out a painful roar, and then its huge body instinctively twisted, using a big fight to attack the enemy. But even when Gyarados was awake, it was difficult for Golduck to concentrate, not to mention that it was still in a state of confusion. Golduck's strong legs bent slightly and jumped up, avoiding Gyarados' haphazard attack. After venting, Gyarados, relying on the habit of long-term training, coiled its body again to protect its vital points, making it impossible for Golduck to attack. Knowing that it would be difficult to approach it for a while to attack it physically, Tick gave another order, Golduck, use synchronization interference. Golduck nodded, and a burst of lavender waves shot out from its eyebrows, hitting Gyarados in confusion, immediately causing great damage to Gyarados. After feeling the attack, Gyarados immediately turned around and instinctively smashed down towards Golduck's location. But with Golduck's speed, this could not cause any trouble to it at all, and it dodged with a light jump. Then, the last Shadow Claw, end this game. Tick said to Golduck, looking at Gyarados' weakness exposed again. Golduck nodded, raised its claws again, and rushed towards Gyarados. Looking at Golduck rushing towards Gyarados, Xuanjian's reason told him that he had already lost this game, but he couldn't let it go in his heart and wanted to make some changes. Gyarados, quickly coil up your body and protect your weaknesses. Xuanjian shouted loudly to Gyarados, but it was useless. Gyarados still kept swinging its body and attacking everywhere. Xuanjian also understood that Gyarados coiled up just now because of luck and a little bit of habit, and it was not done consciously by Gyarados. Now that Gyarados had just been attacked, it instinctively wanted to destroy everything, and it was impossible for it to return to its original defensive posture. Gritting his teeth, although he knew that he was doing useless work, Xuanjian still desperately shouted to Gyarados, Gyarados, you can't just fall down like this without any resistance, attack. Water Cannon, Dragon's Fury, Destruction and Death Beam, anything will do. Maybe Gyarados really heard Xuanjian's words, or maybe it was the effect of luck. Gyarados actually opened its mouth and sent out a Destruction and Death Beam in front of it. At this time, Golduck was standing in front of Gyarados, and its claws with dark purple light were grabbing Gyarados' jaw. Seeing the Destruction and Death Beam sent by Gyarados to itself, Golduck knew that it couldn't dodge it anyway, so it just made up its mind and grabbed its claws fiercely. The skills of both sides hit each other at the same time. Gyarados' huge body fell backwards under the attack of Shadow Claws, and Golduck was also hit by the Destruction and Death Beam and fell down. Both Pokemon lost their combat effectiveness at the same time, and this game ended in a tie in such a weird way. Gyarados and Golduck have both lost their combat power. Please send out the next Pokemon trainers from both teams. Xuanjian was secretly sighing at his good luck. He took back Gyarados and was about to send out Starfish when he suddenly saw Tick, who had taken back Golduck, raising her hand to the referee. "Referee, I give up. Give up." The referee was stunned, and the audience who had just watched a wonderful duel were also stunned. "Yes, give up." Tick said affirmatively. "My other water-type Pokemon have signed contracts with some companies and have missions to complete. They can't travel with me. I only have one water-type Pokemon, Golduck. You can take Pokemon of other attributes to participate in the competition. The competition does not require the use of water-type Pokemon. If you use Pokemon of other attributes, I won't mind." Xuanjian left his seat and came to Tick and said. He also knew that Tick only had one water-type Pokemon, Golduck. Although he could win the championship immediately after Tick admitted defeat, Xuanjian was still unwilling to win such a victory. Moreover, it can be seen from the previous game that Tick is a very powerful opponent. Xuanjian was unwilling to miss an opportunity to compete with the opponent. "Thank you," Tick said to Xuanjian, "but since this competition is held from Miss Kona, using water or ice-type Pokemon is a basic respect for her, and I don't want to violate this principle for the sake of victory." After a pause, Tick continued, "Besides, I have personally verified that Xuanjian, you are a very strong trainer. Even if I have two water-type Pokemon, I may not be able to beat you. Don't think that you have won unfairly. Accept Miss Kona's advice. Next time we meet, we will have a good fight." "Well, thank you." Xuanjian saw that the other party was so determined, so he stopped persuading her. "Then where are you going next?" Tick took out a pair of sunglasses and put them on, then said, "Next, I will play in the Orange League first, and then go to the Kanto region to participate in the Quartz Conference. I heard that there are no coordinators in the Kanto region. I want to show the style of coordinators at the Quartz Conference, so that more people can understand coordinators and become coordinators." "Okay, very interesting idea. Next, I will also participate in the Quartz Conference, so let's work hard together and fight again at the Quartz Conference. It's a deal." Tick stretched out his right hand, clenched it into a fist, and placed it in front of Xuanjian. "It's a deal." Xuanjian also stretched out his right hand, clenched it into a fist, and bumped his fist with Tick's. After the two of them bumped fists with each other, Tick left the competition venue in a chic manner. The next time belonged to Xuanjian. As Tick left the field, the referee also responded quickly. After some negotiation, the referee announced to the audience, "Trainer Tick gave up, and Trainer Xuanjian won. Then I declare that the winner of this competition is Trainer Xuanjian from Kanto. Xuanjian. Xuanjian. Xuanjian." As the referee announced, the audience immediately shouted Xuanjian's name. Although Xuanjian's last game was a bit bloody, every game before was played very well, which has proved Xuanjian's strength. Therefore, the audience did not have too much dissatisfaction, but cheered for Xuanjian sincerely. Listening to the cheers of the audience, Xuanjian felt a sense of satisfaction. After 10 years of hard study, no one asked, and he became famous overnight. Isn't this the moment he worked so hard for? At this moment, Xuanjian felt that everything was worth it. However, if he won the Victor's Cup or even a higher-level league competition, it would feel even better. Chapter 164 Kona's Guidance. After winning the championship, in addition to a considerable amount of bonus, the biggest gain was Kona's personal guidance. However, Kona's guidance was not held at the competition site, but at the training base on his private island. Therefore, after a night of rest, Xuanjian took Duogi to Kona's private island. As expected of a king, he actually owns such a large island. It's amazing. On the back of Chenglong, Duogi looked at the island in front of him and exclaimed. Although it is a private training base, the island is actually a few points larger than the small orange island of the Southern Star. Perhaps only Kona, who is a king, can afford it. Yes, the Orange Alliance really spent a lot of money to win over Kona. Xuanjian looked at this piece of Kona's private island. It is impossible for other alliances to spend so much effort to win over a king. After all, they have many king-level trainers under their banner. If so many resources are invested in each king, the alliance will not be able to operate. The Orange Alliance is just the opposite. The developed tourism industry has made it so poor that it can be said that it has only money left. But the embarrassing thing is that it does not have a king under its command, so it has made such a big effort to win over Kona. With such a big investment, it is no wonder that Kona later resigned as the king of Kanto. It is true that as long as the hoe is used well, there is no corner that cannot be dug down. After landing on the island, following the guidance of the road signs, the two came to a battle site. Kona was training a little sea lion at this time. Seeing the two, Kona put away the little sea lion and walked towards them. Lord Kona. Xuanjian and Duoji saluted hurriedly. Relax, don't be so polite. Kona said, probably because she was on a private island, and she was dressed casually, looking intellectual and beautiful. I watched your game. It's not easy to have such strength at this age. You're too kind. Kona didn't say anything else, but turned to look at Duogi and said, wouldn't you like to introduce your companions? Hearing Kona's question, Duogi hurriedly said, I'm Duogi from Hulan City, please give me your advice. Very beautiful girl, I feel the breath of the sea from you. Kona praised Duogi, and then didn't say anything more. She took Xuanjian to the rest area and sat down. I've watched all your battles. You've bred your Pokemon very well, and your tactical arrangements are perfect, but you also have a problem that most young trainers have to face, poor skills. After a pause, Kona continued, generally speaking, there are two main stages of trainers' poor skills. The first stage is when they just debuted or just captured a Pokemon. The Pokemon's level is not high, or the trainer doesn't understand the Pokemon and doesn't know what skills it can learn, so in battle the Pokemon can only use some melee skills. This situation often leads some trainers to think that their Pokemon are not strong, and eventually give up breeding their Pokemon. In fact, the strength of many Pokemon changes drastically before and after they learn certain skills. Xuanjian nodded. It was the lack of knowledge about Pokemon that made many trainers abandon Pokemon that had great potential, and ultimately they missed the opportunity to become masters. I think you have passed this stage, so let's talk about the second stage, which is the stage you are facing now, the poor skills caused by the rapid growth of strength. You and many talented young trainers have encountered this problem. At this stage, your Pokemon have evolved under your careful cultivation and reached the final form of their own race, and learned most or even all the skills that can be learned through upgrades. But in battle, you will find that the skills learned through upgrades are too few and not enough to deal with all situations. Therefore, you will fall into a state of poor skills. You are in this state now. For example, in a game, if your gem starfish can destroy the death ray and Gyarados can use Megaton Impact, then winning will be much easier. Xuanjian nodded, indeed, I have also discovered this problem, but I found that there is almost no effective way except relying on time accumulation. After all, powerful skill machines like Destroy Death Ray and Megaton Impact are too rare and almost difficult to obtain. Kona nodded and affirmed, yes, these skill machines are hard to get, so have you ever thought about trying another way? What way? Self-study of the Pokemon. Self-study. Yes, Kona nodded, in addition to using skill machines and elves to upgrade, elves can also learn skills through self-study. Although this method is more cumbersome, it is low cost and it is also a good exercise for elves. The common way is to ask one elf to guide another elf, but you can also use skilled books to learn. After hearing Kona's explanation, Xuanjian realized that this was the skill teaching in his memory, but it seemed that there was something more than the original skill teaching. Thinking of this, Xuanjian asked, excuse me, what is a skill book? Skill book literally means a book that can help Pokemon learn skills. After all, although Pokemon can teach each other skills, trainers may not be able to find Pokemon with the required skills, and the language habits of Pokemon vary greatly, making it difficult for them to communicate with each other, and far less accurate than communication with trainers, so skill books were created. These books record in detail how to learn skills. After trainers learn this knowledge through this book, they can pass it on to their Pokemon and conduct targeted training to help them master skills faster. So that's how it is. Xuanjian nodded, but then wondered, then why have I never heard of this thing? Because it has been eliminated. Kona adjusted his hair and said, compared to the convenient and fast skill learning machine, the use of skilled books requires very high requirements from the trainer. The trainer must have enough bond with his own Pokemon so that the Pokemon can accurately understand what he means, and the learning success rate is still very low, so it has been eliminated since the skill machine appeared. Now it is basically no longer available on the market, and I collected a few copies because of my interest. How about, if you are willing, I can teach you how to use the skill book, but success cannot be guaranteed. If you don't want to, I will give you one skill machine each for the Destruction Death Ray and the Billion-Ton Impact. Hearing Kona's words, Xuanjian immediately said, I am willing to learn. As the saying goes, it is better to teach a man to fish than to give him a fish. The same is true for learners. Compared to getting two skill machines that are no longer useful, learning a skilled book that can be reused is undoubtedly more valuable. Hearing Xuanjian's choice, Kona was very happy. Okay, then I will teach you how to use the skill book. However, the Destruction Death Ray and Megaton Impact are difficult to learn, so we will start with the easier and more powerful ones. The weather is good today, so let's learn the Sunshine Flame. Seeing that everyone asked about the leisurely and free-flowing characteristics in the previous chapter, I will explain it. I also know that it is the light-hearted characteristic, but since the official name has changed now, I can only follow the official one. The same was true for the previous syllabus. From now on, the official name will prevail. Chapter 165, Learning from Sunshine Flame. Sunshine Blaze is a grass-type ultimate skill. It has no side effects except that it needs to be charged. The shortcoming of charging can also be solved by making full use of sunlight. It is a skill that Xuanjian has always coveted. As soon as Kona said it, Xuanjian immediately agreed. Bringing Xuanjian to the training ground, Kona handed a book with yellowed pages to Xuanjian and said, "This is the Sunshine Blaze skill book. Take a look first." Xuanjian took the skilled book and read it carefully. The skilled book gave a detailed description of the Sunshine Blaze skill, and also introduced how grass attribute Pokémon and non-grass attribute Pokémon learn this skill, what trainers should do when learning, and other aspects. The book did not contain much content, and Xuanjian finished reading it quickly. Seeing this, Kona nodded with satisfaction and said to Xuanjian, "Have you finished reading? Then release the Pokémon you want to learn Sunshine Blaze from next." Okay, Xuanjian took out the Pokéball from his waist. "Come out, Charizard, Leaf Pokémon." Kona looked at the Leaf Pokémon curiously, and then did not pay more attention to it. After all, the grass attribute was not her favorite attribute. After taking a look, Kona said, "Not bad, there are exactly 2 of them, so let's get started. You should do it according to the skilled book first, and I will guide you if there is anything wrong." Xuanjian nodded, and then said to Charizard and Leaf Elf, "Charizard, Leaf Elf, we are going to learn a new skill today, Sunshine Blaze. Learning this skill will greatly improve your strength. Let's work hard together." Hearing about learning new skills, the 2 elves nodded happily, indicating that they would definitely work hard. Although Xuanjian is not a battle maniac, he also attaches great importance to the strength of the elves, and the elves are naturally inevitably affected. Seeing the attitude of the 2 elves, Xuanjian nodded with satisfaction, opened the book, and began to guide the 2 elves according to what was written in the book. To learn Sunshine Blaze, the elves must first understand the sun and even regard it as a belief. This is not difficult for grass-attributed elves, because many of them can perform photosynthesis, and basically their energy supply comes directly from the sun, so most grass-type elves can learn this grass-type ultimate move by upgrading. However, Charizard and Leafian, who changed their skills, are obviously not included in this list. Leafian is better, at least it has begun to use the energy of sunlight, while Charizard completely regards it as a big fireball for lighting. The skilled book does not specify how to describe the sun to the Pokémon, so the trainer needs to convey his understanding of the sun to the Pokémon, and the trainer's understanding of the sun will directly affect the Pokémon's learning of Sun Flame. After a little thought, Xuanjian expressed his understanding of the sun. The sun is the energy provider for life activities. Everything in this world is closely related to it. The sun's rays shine on the earth. Due to different conditions in different places, the temperature varies, and the air begins to flow, which forms wind. The temperature rises, the water evaporates, gathers and condenses in the air, and then falls, forming rain. Trees absorb the sun's radiation, transform and store it, and eventually become various delicious foods. Through these foods, the elves can obtain the energy to survive. It can be said that without the sun, the world will not be so colorful. Next, you close your eyes and carefully feel the feeling of the sun shining on your body. Then try to draw energy from it, and concentrate it together, gather it to what you think is most suitable, compress it, and then release it. Listening to Xuanjian's words, the Leaf Elf and Charizard both closed their eyes obediently, feeling the warm sunshine, and showing a comfortable expression. Then, the two elves began to try to draw energy to complete their skills. Perhaps because it is a grass-type elf, although it is a latecomer, a small ball of light quickly gathered in front of the leaf elf's forehead. When he saw the light ball appear, Xuanjian almost held his breath, fearing that he would disturb the other party. It was probably the first time that the leaf elf did this, and he was very unskilled. The light ball was very small and unstable, and it exploded quickly. However, with Xuanjian's encouragement, the leaf elf did not get discouraged, but continued to try. After many efforts, the leaf elf finally learned how to control the energy absorbed from the sun, forming a stable large light ball in front of his forehead. Okay. Leaf elf, launch the light ball. The leaf elf nodded, and injected a force into the light ball. The light ball immediately cracked and shot a bright light forward. Beautiful, leaf elf, you succeeded. Xuanjian praised loudly. Xuanjian was so happy that he completely forgot that Charizard was also learning Sunshine Flame at the same time. Compared with the grass-type leaf elf, Charizard had a harder time learning Sunshine Flame, and it still hadn't learned how to absorb the power of the sun. The success of the leaf elf and Xuanjian's praise deeply stimulated Charizard, making it very embarrassed. Seeing the leaf elf who was so proud of the new skill, Charizard snorted with disdain, then gave up practicing and flew away with flapping wings. Charizard, where are you going? Xuanjian noticed the abnormality of Charizard and shouted loudly, but Charizard did not respond and flew away with flapping wings. Charizard is a very arrogant spirit. Seeing that the leaf elf has learned the Sunshine Flame, but he has not made any progress, he must be a little embarrassed and probably ran away to sulk. You should chase it quickly, it shouldn't be far away. Kona said to Xuanjian, I'll give you a little tip. Charizard is a fire spirit, and its body temperature is very high, so it doesn't feel the sun very well. You should start from this point. Yes. Xuanjian nodded and chased in the direction Charizard flew away. After searching for a while, he finally found the sulking Charizard on the cliff by the sea. It was getting angry at the rocks and smashing them with its sharp claws. Upon noticing Xuanjian coming, Charizard immediately gave up his temper, walked to a flat place, lay down on the ground and pretended to sleep. Seeing Charizard like this, Xuanjian immediately understood that Charizard came here alone, not only because it was embarrassed because it learned skills slowly, but also because it was jealous of him for paying more attention to the leaf elf during training, otherwise it would not ignore him. Smiling to himself, Xuanjian did not expose it, but walked straight to Charizard and sat down, leaned on Charizard's belly, and said, Charizard, you are here. Feeling Xuanjian leaning on his belly, Charizard hummed comfortably, turned his head away proudly, and ignored Xuanjian's greeting, which made Xuanjian more certain of his judgment. Then, the next step was to enlighten Charizard. Chapter 166, Battle against Kona. Charizard, we haven't been alone so quietly for a long time. Xuanjian said while resting his head on Charizard's belly, closing his eyes and enjoying the warm sunshine. Since the departure, although he has not conquered a large number of elves, the number of elves around him has continued to increase. Although he tried his best to take care of every elf, the time and energy invested in them has inevitably decreased. If it weren't for Duoga's help, he would definitely be in a mess. Charizard, I'm very sorry for not caring enough for you, but please believe that I have always kept you in my heart and regarded you as the most important part of my life. I will try my best to care for you more in the future. Please continue to stay by my side and become stronger together as we promised at the beginning. Xuanjian stretched out his hand and put it in front of Charizard. Hearing Xuanjian's words, Charizard also remembered the bits and pieces of their getting along, and his dissatisfaction with Xuanjian gradually disappeared. He turned his head again, nodded to Xuanjian, raised his right paw, and placed it on Xuanjian's hand. Okay, Charizard. Let's keep working on it. Xuanjian stood up and pulled up the Charizard lying on the ground. Then he said, Charizard, after the guidance of King Kona, I realized that there was something wrong with our method just now. After all, you are a fire spirit with a high body temperature, so you are not so sensitive to sunlight. Next, we need to let you converge the power in your body and actively lower your body temperature, so that you can feel the sunlight. Let's try it. When Charizard heard that he wanted to learn the Sunshine Flame, he stopped being upset. He sat cross-legged like Xuanjian, closed his eyes, and constantly controlled the fire energy in his body. He used the opposite method of urging the raging fire to continuously gather and compress it, trying to slowly lower his body temperature. As Charizard moved, the flame on its tail became weaker and weaker, as if it was going to go out. As Charizard moved, its body temperature gradually dropped. Xuanjian said again, "Very good, then Charizard, feel the warm sunshine." But things did not go as smoothly as Xuanjian thought. Charizard still could not feel the warm sunshine shining on its body. Even if it tried to control it, its body temperature was still too high, so that it completely overwhelmed the power provided by the sunshine. Fortunately, Charizard was no longer angry. He returned to the training ground with Xuanjian and asked Kona for help. Hearing Xuanjian's question, Kona did not answer directly, but said, "Let's fight first." Xuanjian was stunned for a moment, then nodded, "Okay." So he stood on the other side of the field, and Kona also summoned his own armored shell. Seeing Kona ready, Xuanjian ordered Charizard, "Charizard, use jet flames." Hearing Xuanjian's order, Kona shook his head, "Don't try, this is useless to me, show your strongest ability." As Kona's voice fell, he saw armored shell sprayed out streams of water guns, extinguishing the flames sprayed by Charizard. "Okay, Charizard, use exploding fireball." Upon hearing Xuanjian's order, the flames on Charizard's tail suddenly exploded, and then a ball of flame appeared in Charizard's mouth. However, Charizard did not spray it out immediately, but continued to inject power into it and compress it. In the end, the flame was compressed into a dark red fireball, which Charizard smashed at the scutum below. Actively enter the first fire? Interesting. Scutum, water circulation. Scutum's shell is covered with spikes of varying lengths. These spikes are hollow, and Scutum can launch attacks or help itself move by spraying water from them. After receiving Kona's order, Scutum immediately sprayed a large amount of water from the spikes. The water did not shoot at the enemy, but surrounded its body, forming a circle of defense. At this time, the attack launched by Charizard also fell and collided with the water flow. Charizard's attack is a combination of moves, the most central of which is the Big Explosion skill. Outside of it, Charizard's Flame Vortex skill wraps a thick layer of flames. These flames compress the Big Explosion in the center, protecting it while also greatly increasing its power due to compression. When colliding with the water circulation, the outer layer of the Flame Vortex is constantly consumed, causing its compression force on the Big Explosion in the center to become smaller and smaller, and it can no longer prevent the Big Explosion from exploding. Therefore, when the outer layer of flames and the water circulation offset each other, the power of this skill is truly revealed. The compressed Big Explosion suddenly expands, causing a huge explosion. The violent explosion completely blasted open the water curtain of the ironclad shell, and the flames in it also fell on the body of the ironclad shell with a shock wave of the explosion, but with the defensive ability of the ironclad shell, these did not cause it too much trouble. "Nice move," Kona commented, "but it's not enough to break my Metal Shell's defense. Bring out a stronger attack." Hearing Kona's words, Xuanjian touched the bracelet on his arm, and at the same time, he looked at Charizard and said, "Okay, then I'll use my strongest attack. Charizard, get ready." Then, Xuanjian raised his arm and focused on sensing the Z crystal. Suddenly, the Z crystal immediately emitted a ball of light. "Charizard, use burn up." Xuanjian ordered loudly, and at the same time, the crystal on his arm emitted a burst of energy towards Charizard, resonating with the Z crystal carried by Charizard. The resonance of the crystal attracted the surrounding natural energy, and a large amount of natural energy was injected into the flames ejected from Charizard's mouth. Suddenly, the temperature and intensity of the flames doubled, instantly surrounding Metal Shell. "Is this a Z move?" Kona looked at the suddenly powerful burn-up with some surprise. She had never traveled to the Alero region, but she had heard of this skill in the Alero region, but she didn't expect it to be so amazing. "Yes, this is the Fire-type Z ultimate move, the strongest attack that my Charizard can make." Kona pushed his glasses and said, "A very good skill, it almost hurt my Metal Shell. I also know your strength. Then it's my turn to attack. Metal Shell, get out of the shell." "What?" Xuanjian looked at the sea of fire in front of him and couldn't believe that Metal Shell still maintained its combat effectiveness. As Kona spoke, Metal Shell jumped out of the sea of fire, and its body was still covered with a layer of ice that had melted most of the time. It seemed that it just relied on this ice layer to resist the damage caused by Charizard. "Metal Shell, which jumped out of the flames, opened its beak and took off the outer shell, revealing its soft body. While its defense was reduced, its attack, special attack, and speed were greatly improved, and it switched from a defensive state to an offensive state. Metal Shell, freezing ray. Kona ordered, and then a large piece of cold light shot towards Charizard, freezing it directly in it. Charizard! Xuanjian shouted worriedly. At this time, Charizard was completely frozen in the ice and could not move. The situation was even more serious than the last time Gyarados was frozen. After all, Gyarados is a water-type Pokémon, and low-temperature freezing has little effect on it, but Charizard is a fire-type Pokémon. Once its body temperature is too low, it will be in danger of death. Just when Xuanjian was at a loss for what to do with the frozen Charizard, Metagross launched another attack, smashing the ice that froze Charizard into pieces, allowing Charizard to regain its freedom. However, Charizard, who was freed from the ice, became extremely weak and did not even have the strength to stand. He fell directly to the ground, and even the flame on his tail became extremely weak. Kona put away the iron shell and said to Xuanjian, under normal circumstances, Charizard cannot feel the sunlight, but now it has been hurt by the freezing ray, and its body temperature has dropped to an extremely low level. It is a good opportunity to learn the Sunshine Flame. Act quickly. After hearing Kona's words, Xuanjian realized that Kona's purpose was to help Charizard understand the Sunshine Flame. No wonder he was so heavy-handed. Okay, Charizard, start working hard quickly. By the way, Leaf Elf, come out to help. Xuanjian summoned Leaf Elf again and said, use Sunny Day to make the sunlight more abundant. After hearing Kona's words, Charizard immediately closed his eyes, spread his body as much as possible, quietly felt the warmth brought by the sunlight, and absorbed the power of the sunlight according to what Xuanjian said. The Leaf Elf also released Sunny Day to make the sunlight in the sky become fundamentally abundant. Under sunny days, fire elves can get bonuses, and Charizard immediately felt that his body became warm. Following this feeling, Charizard began to try to absorb the power of the sunlight. Plants absorb energy from sunlight and store it through photosynthesis, but they can release it again in the form of light and heat through combustion, which shows that grass-type energy can be converted into fire-type energy. Perhaps it was because of the previous efforts, or perhaps it was because of the subtle relationship between grass-type and fire-type. Charizard quickly found the feeling, learned to draw energy from the sun, and use this energy for recovery. Gradually, the flame on Charizard's tail became stronger and stronger, and Charizard's body temperature gradually recovered. Just when Xuanjian was worried that Charizard would lose the feeling of sunlight again due to the increase in body temperature, Charizard got up from the ground, raised his head, opened his mouth, and shot a dazzling light into the air. It was the grass-type ultimate move, Sunshine Flame. Great, I learned it. Xuanjian said happily as he looked at Charizard. Charizard showed a proud look, and did not stop the action, but spread his wings to the maximum, speeding up the absorption of sunlight, and then the light from its mouth was ignited and turned into golden flame. This is a secondary transformation skill. Xuanjian looked at the golden flames that Charizard spewed out in surprise. He keenly felt that the flames transformed from the flames of the sun were even more powerful than the flames that burned out. That's right, Kona on the side was also a little surprised, but still said calmly, when learning skills by themselves, the elves learn skills through their own efforts, so the mastery of skills should be stronger, and there is a small chance that some surprises will come. Your Charizard has a good talent. It transforms the grass energy into fire energy to use, creating this golden flame, which looks very powerful. After all, the effect of grass energy directly attacking is actually not very good. It is much stronger when converted into fire. By the way, give this move a name. Xuanjian thought about it and said, let's call it the Blazing Sun Golden Flame. The Blazing Sun Golden Flame. A good name, come on. I believe that one day the name of this skill will resound throughout the Alliance. Well, Xuanjian nodded, in the future, I will publish a skilled book based on this move. P.S. Actually, I really wanted to reminisce a little, but I gave up in the end. Chapter 167 Citrus Island. After learning Sunshine Blaze and successfully integrating it with fire skills, Charizard's strength immediately rose to a new level. Taking this opportunity, Xuanjian took out all his Pokémons and asked Kona for some pointers. Although he didn't learn any new skills, he had made significant improvements. It's very difficult to learn the two skills, destruction death ray and billion tons impact, using skill books. After all, these two skills mainly rely on energy bursts, and the skills are not very high. The best way to learn is to take more attacks. Kona said to Xuanjian, who was about to leave. Xuanjian nodded. I understand, thank you for your advice. Kona smiled. It's nothing, I'm also very happy to be able to guide such an outstanding young man like you. By the way, your idea of breeding Gyarados is very interesting. If you can really make Gyarados overcome the violence in its nature, then your Gyarados will definitely be reborn. I'll look forward to your success. It's a pity that I am better at the mixed changes of water and ice attributes, rather than the manipulation and utilization of water attributes, so I can't help you too much. If you have the opportunity to meet Ziba, ask him for advice. Fighting is to constantly erode the savage nature of Pokémon, making it calm and wise without losing the desire to fight. He should have a lot of experience in how to subdue the innate ferocity of Pokémon. Yes, I must ask him for advice when I have the chance. The trip to the Orange Islands is about to end. After returning to Kanto, I should have a chance to meet Ziba. During this training, if there is a Pokémon that has gained the most, it is not Charizard, whose strength has greatly increased, but Gyarados, whose strength has not increased much, because this time under the guidance of Kona, Xuanjian found the direction of cultivating Gyarados. Although Gyarados has always been the first echelon among Xuanjian's many Pokémon since its evolution, and there have not been too many problems, Xuanjian actually feels that Gyarados' potential has not been fully developed. For example, it should have been able to learn the skill of praying for rain by upgrading, but until now, there has been no gain. Under the guidance of Kona, Xuanjian realized that it was because Gyarados' power was too violent, and it had always relied on powerful strength to fight, and its understanding of the rules was very weak, so it failed to learn this skill. When instructing Gyarados, Kona proposed a view from Dragon King Do that Xuanjian had never heard of before. Gyarados is actually a mixed blood dragon attribute Pokémon with dragon attribute blood in its body, so it can learn so many dragon attribute skills. However, due to its impure bloodline, it cannot bear the powerful power of the dragon system, so it often goes berserk. If it can control its bloodline power, it is very likely that its bloodline will be purified, showing dragon attributes and learning more dragon attribute skills. Xuanjian thinks this statement makes sense. After all, Gyarados mating group, that is egg group, is water attribute and dragon group. In addition to water attribute blood, its bloodline also has dragon attribute blood. However, this world obviously does not have the concept of bloodline reversion upgrade, and there is no difference between water attribute bloodline and dragon attribute bloodline, so no one has paid attention to this issue. But for Xuanjian, this is a good research direction. According to Xuanjian's research, the difficulty of Magikarp evolving into Gyarados may largely depend on the purity of the dragon attribute bloodline in its bloodline. After all, in some of the data he collected, if the parent is Magikarp, the probability of successfully evolving into Gyarados is only 1 in 100,000, which is terribly low. But if one of the parents is Gyarados, the probability of successful evolution is almost 3 in 1,000, and if both parents are Gyarados, the probability reaches 1 in 300. As for the parent with a dragon-type elf, there is no data due to missing data, but according to Xuanjian's speculation, it should be higher. The power of dragon-type skills is good, and the attack surface is large enough. According to Dew's theory, if the blood of Gyarados can be purified, break through the restrictions, and learn more dragon-type skills, then its strength will definitely be greatly improved. As for whether this statement is correct, Xuanjian thinks it is very likely to be true. After all, Dew is the king of dragon-type, and he knows enough about dragon-type skills, and he must have done some research on this. As soon as Xuanjian proposed to cultivate Gyarados according to Dew's statement, he immediately got the support of Kona and Duoge. Duoge even took out something that everyone was extremely surprised about, a dragon-type strengthening recipe. Duoge found a residual recipe from the things Caesar gave her. This residual recipe is used to strengthen the attributes of certain aspects of the elves. However, due to the precious materials used, the difficulty of preparation is relatively high, and the success rate is low. It has not been promoted. She studied it, made some improvements, and made this recipe. Duoge developed a basic recipe. If you want to strengthen a certain attribute in a targeted way, you need to improve it again. Coincidentally, when in the desert, Duoge once asked the people of the Duduli tribe to collect the blood that flowed out after Rayquaza was injured. These bloods from Rayquaza condensed into jade-like beads after falling into the desert, which did not look like blood at all. These coagulated blood beads contain extremely strong dragon attribute energy, which can be used to strengthen Gyarados. With Duoga's assistance, Xuanjian is more determined to succeed in this plan. However, in order to carry out this plan, you must first subdue the powerful power brought by the blood. According to Kona's understanding, at least the elves will not fall into rage casually. For Du, this is not difficult, because he has the power of controlling dragons, which can directly temporarily give Gyarados dragon attributes, change the dragon attribute bloodline from implicit to explicit, and directly overcome the power chaos brought by mixed blood. But Xuanjian does not have the power of controlling dragons, so he obviously cannot do this, so he can only improve Gyarados' control over power and will not easily fall into rage. It's a pity that Kona didn't study much about how to overcome the weaknesses of the elves themselves, but she also pointed out a clear way for Xuanjian to ask the Fighting King Ziba for advice. Fighting itself is a way to constantly overcome one's own weaknesses and strengthen oneself. Ziba has a lot of experience in this aspect. It's getting late, we won't stay any longer. Thank you for your teaching these days. We have gained a lot. After I challenge the Orange Alliance, I will return to Kanto to participate in the Quartz Conference. I hope to get your guidance again at that time. Not only myself, but also Duoga has gained a lot from this guidance. If there is nothing else, Xuanjian really wants to stay here for a while. There will be opportunities. Kona said, try hard. Perform well in the Winners' Cup and don't let me down. I will watch the live broadcast. Yes. After saying goodbye to Kona, he rode on the dragon and headed for the Citrus Island. There was Xuanjian's ultimate goal of this trip to the Orange League, the Winners' Cup. Chapter 168 Winners' Cup. Please subscribe. It's the end of the month, please subscribe so that I can get an average of 200 subscriptions. Otherwise, after working hard for a month, I can't make it to the battle power list, which is very discouraging. They arrived at the Orange Island smoothly, signed up, and Xuanjian and Duoji stayed at the Pokémon Center, waiting for the start of the competition. After all, the Winners' Cup is the highest level competition in the Orange Islands. It is impossible to be on call like the gym battle. It takes some time to prepare. It was the first time for Xuanjian to participate in such a large-scale competition. No matter what, Xuanjian was still a little nervous. In the end, he calmed down a little after calling home in Xiaobo. Have you decided on the Pokémon to use tomorrow? Duogi asked. She looked even more nervous than Xuanjian. I've decided, Butterfree, Starfish, Leaf Spirit, Charizard, Gyarados, and Mantis. Xuanjian said. In fact, there was really nothing to choose. Although he had more than these Pokémon, most of them were not very strong, and these were the only ones he could show off. Duoga nodded and said, although the attributes are repeated, they are enough to cope with tomorrow's game. Give them to me. I will relax them before the game so that they can play 100% of their strength tomorrow. Xuanjian nodded and handed the Pokéballs to Duoga. The Pokémons were also a little nervous about tomorrow's game. Although they felt much better with their own comfort, it would be even better if they had Duoga's help. By the way, Duoga suddenly thought of something and looked up and asked, I tried to make the energy block that Caesar gave you. I didn't expect it to be successful. Do you want to use it in tomorrow's game? What ability block? Xuanjian was stunned for a moment before reacting. You mean the one that allows the leaf elf to use the treasure? You actually made it. Because Caesar said that few people could make that kind of energy block, Xuanjian always treated the energy blocks he gave him as treasures and kept them for use at critical moments. Unexpectedly, Duoga actually made it. It was really a huge surprise. Duoga nodded and said, many of the raw materials in that formula need to be processed using some special techniques to maximize their characteristics in one aspect while lacking another characteristic. This way, there will be no conflict with other ingredients when they are finally fused. This method was created by the school I studied, and few outsiders know about it, so other people don't know the mystery at all. I guess this recipe was left by a breeder predecessor from my school. After using the special secret technique, the success rate is greatly improved. Although the materials used are still very precious, these energy blocks can be repeatedly produced. They are not as expensive as before and can be used at will. Hearing Duoga's words, Xuanjian was overjoyed and immediately said, since it can be repeatedly produced, there is naturally no need to save it. Of course, it should be given to the leaf elves. If the treasured skills can be used, the combat effectiveness of the leaf elves will be greatly improved. Thank you, Duoge. You are amazing. You're welcome. I'm glad to be able to help you. Early the next morning, Xuanjian and Duoge came to the competition venue, the Citrus Sports Field. The style of the Citrus Stadium looks a bit like the Colosseum in ancient Rome, and it looks very majestic. On the left is the Victory Palace, which can also be called the Hall of Victory. Here are the photos and handprints of trainers who have successfully challenged the Victory Cup and the Pokémon. When Xuanjian and Duoge arrived, the chief trainer of the Orange League, Yangtze, was already waiting there, and a mighty Dragonite was standing next to him. So, you are today's challenger? I hope you won't let me down. Yangtze looked at Xuanjian and said, "Hello, Mr. Yangtze. I believe I won't let you down." Xuanjian ignored the other party's provocation and greeted politely, while sizing up the Dragonite next to the other party. After all, this is a rare quasi-divine beast. Oh? You seem very confident. I'm looking forward to the match with you. There were almost no challengers in the off-season just past. Dragonite and I can't wait, said Yuji. Seeing Xuanjian looking at Dragonite, he said, "How is it?" "My Dragonite is good. It's a rare quasi-divine beast." Yuji introduced his Dragonite in a boastful tone, as if he wanted to put some psychological pressure on Xuanjian. "Dragonite, a very good Pokémon. But my Pokémon is not bad either, and it's not inferior to Dragonite," Xuanjian answered confidently. "Okay, I'm looking forward to your performance. See you later." With that, Yuji rode on Dragonite's back and left. After Yuji's interruption, Xuanjian relaxed and began to close his eyes and rest, waiting for the start of the match. At around 10 o'clock in the morning, the match officially began. The huge stadium was full of people. Probably because they hadn't seen the match in the off-season, people were very enthusiastic and came to watch. On the radio, the commentator began the pre-match introduction as usual. "This is the Citrus Sports Field. Welcome to the audience. Today's challenger is Mr. Xuanjian, a trainer from Kanto, a newcomer who has never challenged a large-scale competition. His best result before was winning the King's Guidance Tournament. His opponent is the Orange League's strongest Southern Cross chief trainer Yuji, who possesses a powerful quasi-divine beast Dragonite. Since he became the chief trainer, no one has been able to defeat him and enter the Hall of Fame. Does the challenger this time have the strength to defeat Mr. Yuji and become the first person to enter the Hall of Fame during the Southern Cross's term of office? Let us wait and see." This commentary is really annoying. Although it seems to be telling the truth, it is actually secretly saying that Xuanjian, you don't have the strength to defeat Yuji. It's really annoying, Duoge said to Xuanjian dissatisfiedly. Xuanjian smiled and said indifferently, "No matter what he does, I will prove everything with my strength." "Yeah," Duoge nodded, and then made a fist to Xuanjian, "Come on." Xuanjian nodded, left the lounge, and entered the competition venue. Yuji also walked out from the other side of the venue. Although there was a slight age difference, the two walked up to each other, shook hands, and expressed friendship to each other. "Welcome to challenge the Orange League Winter Cup, Xuanjian," Yuji said. "Let me see how capable you are. Show me your trainer's spirit." "Of course, I hope you don't take me lightly, Yuji, don't let me down," Xuanjian replied with a smile. The rules of the game are 6 versus 6. When 3 Pokémon on either side lose their combat ability, the battle venue will be changed. During the battle, the chief trainer's Pokémon cannot be changed, and the challenger can change Pokémon at will. The referee walked up to the two and began to explain the rules. The two nodded to show that they understood, and then each walked to their own position to wait for the game to begin. Ling. With the sound of a bell, the game officially began. The first thing was to randomly draw venue. This time, the rock venue was drawn. At the same time, the commentator also began his work. The game is finally about to begin. What kind of Pokémon will the two players bring out to fight on this battlefield? The first one to bring out a Pokémon is the chief trainer, Mr. Yuji. "Go ahead, my number 1 player, it's him." According to the rules, the chief trainer sends out Pokémon first. Yuji called out Ditto, which Xuanjian expected. Xuanjian nodded. Since he couldn't change Pokémon, using Ditto as the first mover was undoubtedly a very smart choice. Ditto, which has the ability to transform, can change into the attributes of the opponent's Pokémon, thus avoiding attribute restraint. However, Ditto only turns into those Pokémon after all. Although it copies the opponent's racial attributes, it cannot completely copy the opponent's well-trained body and unique skills. Therefore, as long as the Pokémon is well-trained, it is not difficult to fight against Ditto. Seeing Yuji's Ditto, the commentator immediately began to explain, the vanguard sent by the chief trainer Yuji is Ditto. It has only one skill, which is transformation, but its ever-changing ability is enough to confuse the opponent. It is a formidable enemy. Next, let's see what the first Pokémon of Xuanjian will be. Let's go to Butterfree. Xuanjian also took out his first Pokémon. Butterfree, Xuanjian's first Pokémon is the common bug-type Pokémon Butterfree. It's really rare to see such a challenger using such an ordinary Pokémon. After the commentator said that, the audience on the field immediately discussed. Originally, they didn't have much confidence in Xuanjian after hearing Xuanjian's record, and now they were even less optimistic about Xuanjian. The two people on the field didn't care what the audience thought, and started fighting. Yuji first ordered Ditto, transform. Then, Ditto's gelatinous body began to flow, and soon changed into a beautiful Butterfree, flapping its wings and flying into the air. Although the appearance has become similar, Ditto is Ditto after all, and it is impossible to completely transform into Butterfree. Xuanjian said, and ordered, Butterfree, colorful rain. For today's competition, he and Duoga specially took care of Butterfree, adjusted the scale powder attached to its wings, increased the amount of scale powder carried without affecting Butterfree's flight, and adjusted the proportion of the three powders to achieve the best effect. This careful preparation, let this Zebelhero Butterfree try it first. Butterfree flapped its wings and attacked Zebelhero Butterfree. After Kona's guidance, its strength has improved slightly. At this time, it emitted a silver wind mixed with the three powders. It no longer formed a wind belt like before, but used wind blades to hold drops of raindrops of different colors and sprinkled them on the opponent. The raindrops of different colors sparkled in the sun, which was very beautiful, making people feel that this was not a battle between elves, but a gorgeous competition. Watching the colorful raindrops coming towards his Ditto under the influence of the wind, Yongxi's face was solemn. He was not afraid of his opponent bringing out some powerful Pokémon, but he was afraid that the Pokémon his opponent brought out had special skills that he had cultivated through his own efforts. After all, Ditto could not learn such skills. However, Ditto was at a high enough level and had enough skills to deal with this kind of situation. Thinking of this, Yongxi ordered, Ditto, use mental power. In order for Ditto to successfully transform into various Pokémon, its mental power was not weak to begin with, and with its high level, the lavender mental thought wave defeated the colorful rain without a doubt. The raindrops exploded under the impact of the thought wave, turning into dust all over the sky, glittering in the sun, and even a faint rainbow was formed. Xuanjian smiled slightly. How could his carefully designed trick be so easy to crack? Then he ordered Butterfree, use silver wind to blow the dust over. Butterfree nodded, flapped its wings vigorously, and blew out silver wind belts, blowing the dust scattered in the air towards the opponent. Looking at the oncoming dust, Yongxi did not dare to neglect it, and immediately ordered, Ditto, Mystical Guard. These dusts are difficult to eliminate for a while, so just use Mystical Guard to eliminate them forever. Ditto was hit by the silver wind belt, but it was not hurt too much due to its attribute immunity. At the same time, a mysterious light appeared on its body, making the three powders completely ineffective. However, Yongxi also knew that he was far behind the opponent. After all, the opponent had used Silver Wind twice in a row, which must have been a big improvement. Therefore, seeing that Ditto was fine, Yuji immediately ordered, Ditto, Butterfly Dance. Let's do it too. Seeing the opponent using Butterfly Dance, Xuanjian would naturally not neglect it. Butterfly Dance clone. Once again, the two Pokémon show the difference between the real thing and the fake one. Although Ditto also used Butterfly Dance, it was very stiff and used the skill in a completely rigid manner, while Butterfree had beautiful movements and also used Shadow Clone, successfully hiding its real body. Almost done, Butterfree has been greatly improved. If it is improved further, its strength will be a little difficult to control perfectly. It's time to end the battle. So, Xuanjian ordered Butterfree, use Swallow Return. When fighting against such an opponent, there is no need to expose Butterfree's full strength for the time being. With Butterfree's current level of enhancement, using Swallow Return is enough to solve it. Hearing the order, Butterfree immediately took action. Together with its shadow clones, Butterfree flapped its beautiful wings and rushed towards Ditto from different directions. Its superb control of the shadow clones made Ditto unable to tell where the attack came from. At this moment, Yuji ordered, "Ditto, cancel the transformation." Although Ditto didn't understand the trainer's purpose, it did it anyway. Its speed was so fast that when Butterfree hit Ditto, it had already turned back into a soft colloid form. Although the attack still hit, the damage caused was greatly reduced. Cancel the transformation to reduce the damage by half. Xuanjian easily saw Yuji's tactics, but in this way, Ditto would completely lose its combat ability, and he would not give it time to transform again. Butterfree, Silver Wind. Ditto, destroy all shadow clones. Butterfree used Silver Wind again and hit Ditto. This time, there was no attribute weakening, and Ditto didn't have time to transform, which was enough to make it lose its combat effectiveness. But to everyone's surprise, Ditto did not try to transform to resist. Instead, it turned its soft body into long whips and shot them into the air. Although it did not cause any damage to Butterfree, it wiped out all of Butterfree's fragile shadow clones, and then fell under the attack of Silver Wind. The referee announced, "Ditto has lost its combat effectiveness, and Butterfree wins." The commentator also began to explain, "It was a really intense match. Mr. Gemma's Butterfree showed amazing skills and used two very gorgeous moves. If it hadn't been in the wrong place, I would almost have thought this was a gorgeous contest." Mr. Yuji's Ditto also performed very well. Although it lost to Butterfree, it fully utilized the advantage of its soft body in the last move and wiped out all of Butterfree's shadow clones, making a very good assist for his teammates who came later. So, I wonder what Mr. Yuji's next Pokemon will be? Let us wait and see. To explain everyone's question in the previous chapter, Gyarados does absorb water and flying energy when it evolves, but this energy is only an external catalyst, and the dragon bloodline is its internal cause. Under the joint action of internal and external factors, Gyarados is able to evolve. Chapter 169 Winner's Cup. After taking back Ditto, Yuji sent out his second Pokemon, Go, Onix. Seeing Onix appear on the field, Xuanjian breathed a sigh of relief. He had submitted his paper on Onix evolving into Steelix a month ago, and many trainers have begun trying to evolve Onix into Steelix. Yuji's Onix is definitely high enough to evolve into Steelix, and he has money to buy metal coating. If he evolves Onix, then this battle will be much more difficult. However, facing Onix that has not evolved, although its level is high enough, it has a fatal weakness of being 4 times weak to water and grass. Xuanjian is not afraid at all, and even thinks that Butterfree can completely defeat it. Butterfree, Silver Wind, attack Onix's head. The huge Pokemon have a very strong ability to resist attacks, unless you aim at their weaknesses, but for most trainers, this is a difficult task to complete, because it is difficult for them to find the weaknesses of Pokemon, but this is not a problem for Xuanjian as a researcher. For example, Onix's body is made of rock, and it is difficult to cause serious damage to its body because it can recover quickly. Only its head is its weakest point. Yongxi did not dare to neglect Butterfree's Silver Wind. Onix's physical defense is very good, but its special defense is not. In front of Butterfree, which has been strengthened many times, its poor special defense is as fragile as paper. Moreover, God knows whether the 3 powders are mixed in the Silver Wind. Onix's properties determine that it has no resistance to hypnotic powder and paralysis powder. The effect is almost immediate, so Yongxi immediately ordered, "Onix, use Sandstorm." With Onix's roar, a large amount of sand and dust was lifted up, surrounding Onix and spreading around it. While blocking the Silver Wind, it also continued to cause damage to Butterfree. Seeing Butterfree being hurt, Xuanjian did not dare to neglect and immediately ordered, "Butterfree, stretch your hide and get out of the sandstorm." After receiving Xuanjian's order, Butterfree immediately flapped its wings and flew to a high place, and soon got out of the sandstorm. This is the unique advantage of flying Pokémons. The space for turning and moving is much larger than other Pokémons. Looking at Butterfree that got out of the sandstorm, Yongxi smiled, "I've been prepared for this move of yours." Onix shoots it down. "No. Butterfree, feathers." Xuanjian ordered loudly, but it was obviously too late. The long-planned Onix threw a huge rock from its tail, passed through the layers of sandstorms, hit Butterfree in the air, and shot it down from the air. However, Xuanjian's order still played a role. Butterfree used feathers at the last moment to reduce the damage by half and restore a little physical strength. But even so, Butterfree's wings were injured and it could no longer fly, so it could only fall to the ground in embarrassment. It's over, Onix. Use Rock Slide. A flying-type Pokémon that has lost its ability to fly is like a fish on a chopping board, completely at the mercy of others. This rockfall is enough to solve the problem. Looking at Butterfree lying on the ground and the boulder that Onix is about to throw, Xuanjian didn't panic at all. He even stopped Butterfree from using its superpowers to escape with his eyes, and calmly ordered, "Butterfree, use Energy Ball." When Butterfree first debuted, it became the main force of Xuanjian's team because of its extremely short growth cycle, helping Xuanjian win many games. Now, although Butterfree's strength is gradually surpassed by Charizard and Gyarados due to its racial talent, this does not mean that it is a weakling in Xuanjian's team. After a long period of careful training and extraordinary talent, it is still in the first echelon of the team, and Butterfree has learned a lot of skills, which can be said to be the most comprehensive in terms of skill mastery in the team. After many upgrades, Butterfree's speed far exceeds Onix. Following Xuanjian's command, a green energy ball quickly formed. The green energy ball passed through the layers of sandstorms and hit Onix's head accurately. Afterwards, the boulder thrown by Onix was also thrown at Butterfree. Butterfree flapped its wings and used telekinesis to help it avoid a head-on collision, but was still hit by the edge of the boulder and was blown away. Seeing that Butterfree was blown away, it did not lose its fighting power. Although it felt sorry for Butterfree's injury, Xuanjian knew what he should do. Onix's head was seriously injured by the energy ball attack and was in a daze. It was a good time to chase it. So Xuanjian ordered, "Butterfree, another energy ball." Hearing Xuanjian's order, Butterfree, which was fluttering in the air, immediately gave up maintaining its balance and sent another green energy ball to Onix, and then fell to the ground. This energy ball did not disappoint everyone and hit Onix's head again. Amid the explosion of the energy ball, Onix let out a painful roar. With a combination of its 4 times weak grass and extremely low special defense, Onix, which was hot in the vitals, completely lost its fighting power and fell down helplessly. After Onix fell, the referee immediately gave a verdict. Onix lost its fighting power, Butterfree won. Immediately, the audience in the arena immediately exclaimed in disbelief. Some of them couldn't believe that Onix, who looked so powerful, was actually defeated by a tiny Butterfree. The voice of the commentator also sounded at the right time. "Oh my god, what did I see? Butterfree made a comeback. This is not an illusion, a Butterfree actually made a comeback and killed Onix. This is really amazing." Although Butterfree's racial talent is higher than Onix's attributes completely restrain Butterfree, and the sizes of the two are completely disproportionate, but Mr. Xuanjian used his Butterfree to perform a miracle of counter-killing, which is really surprising. Mr. Xuanjian is worthy of being the youngest researcher in the league. He can use such a weak Pokémon to perfection. Without understanding the flattery and the amazement of the audience, Xuanjian took out the Pokéball and wanted to take Butterfree back. Butterfree had already defeated 2 enemies, and such a performance could no longer be described as outstanding, but now its wings were injured and it had lost most of its combat effectiveness, so the rest would be left to other Pokémon. The red recovery beam hit Butterfree, but Butterfree flapped its wings, broke free from the recovery beam, turned and looked at Xuanjian. "Butterfree, don't force yourself. With your efforts, we have a great advantage. You should come back and rest first, and leave the rest to others." Xuanjian persuaded Butterfree. Butterfree shook his head and refused Xuanjian. It was smart and knew that although it was gifted, the inherent disadvantages of its race made it have little room for improvement. As its companions gradually grew up, its strength would gradually fall behind everyone. This game might be its most glorious and peak game. It would be difficult to have such a good opportunity in the future, so it had to fight to the last moment. Looking into Butterfree's eyes, Xuanjian understood Butterfree's intention. As its strength grew, Butterfree would eventually withdraw from its main team, and the Victor's Cup might be the peak of its career. This was a helpless thing. All he could do was to satisfy its wish. "I understand. Butterfree, let go and fight." Hearing Xuanjian's words, Butterfree nodded happily, and then turned around with the help of telekinesis and looked at the opponent who had appeared on the field, Jengar. "I just came back from worshipping my ancestors, and I will be on a business trip tomorrow. I took the time to code this chapter these days to prove that I didn't code it. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 170 Winner's Cup. The moment he saw Jengar, Xuanjian couldn't help but curl up his lips. Through the 2 games just now, in the eyes of others, Butterfree is good at bug-type skills. Jengar, with its ghost and poison attributes, has great restraint on Butterfree. But only those who have fought Butterfree know that its best skill is actually superpowers, which is exactly the attribute that restrains Jengar. Although Onyx has fallen, the sandstorm it used is still raging, but these are minor troubles for Jengar. While giving a chilling sneer, Jengar hid in the shadows created by the sandstorm and disappeared from the side of Xuanjian and Butterfree. However, Jengar's little tricks did not work for Butterfree and Xuanjian. Xuanjian ordered almost without hesitation, "Butterfree, use Illusion Beam." What? Everyone was stunned and didn't understand why Xuanjian issued such an order. Under the obstruction of the sandstorm, the ground was covered with thick shadows, which was the best cover for Jengar. How could Butterfree find its opponent? But Butterfree's performance once again exceeded their cognition. Butterfree's silver tentacles lit up, and a colorful phantom light, under Butterfree's control, shot towards the shadow without hesitation. Then, a black figure was expelled from it. It was Jengar. Looking at Jengar, who was dodging continuously, Xuanjian explained, "Butterfree's characteristic is compound eyes, which is a very common characteristic. Under natural conditions, Butterfree relies on this characteristic to distinguish the differences between flowers and find the most delicious nectar. In battle, this characteristic can improve the hit rate. After Jengar hides in the shadow, the color of the shadow will change slightly. Although it cannot be seen by human eyes, it is not a difficult task for Butterfree with compound eyes. Therefore, hiding is a waste of effort, just attack head-on." "Thank you for your explanation," Yongxi said. "It is true that we can only attack head-on, but before that, Jengar, use Smoke of Clearance. With the combat power shown by this Butterfree, it is inevitable to learn Mystic Art, which means that his usual delaying war is bankrupt, but as long as the effects of Butterfree's multiple enhancements are eliminated, Jengar will not be afraid at all when facing him head-on." Seeing Jengar spraying purple smoke at Butterfree, Xuanjian's face changed, and then he sighed helplessly. Butterfree with injured wings could not move quickly, nor could it use flying skills, so naturally it could not dispel the poisonous smoke. He could only watch Butterfree's ability, which had been improved with great difficulty, return to the starting point. Looking at Butterfree, which had become weak due to the loss of enhancement under the cover of the clear smoke, Yuji nodded with satisfaction and issued an order, "Jengar, use Shadow Ball." Jengar, who received the order, raised his hands with a sly smile, and a ball of dark purple energy gathered in his hands, and then smashed it hard at Butterfree. The illusion light just now made it suffer a lot, and now it was time to retaliate. Looking at the attacking Shadow Ball, Xuanjian immediately ordered, "Butterfree, the most powerful spiritual power." Butterfree's injuries were not light, and every minute of delay would make it lose a lot of physical strength, and under continuous fighting, its energy, that is, PP, was consumed a lot, so it could only fight quickly. Hearing Xuanjian's order, Butterfree raised its head with great effort, and powerful superpowers rushed out from its 2 tentacles, almost condensing into substance. The purple mental power turned into a sharp sword, which collided head-on with the Shadow Ball, not only smashing it to pieces, but also shooting at Jengar without losing momentum, piercing the defenseless Jengar through. Jengar is defined as a shadow Pokémon, but in fact, its body is gaseous, just like its previous forms Ghastly and Haunter, so even if its body is pierced through, it is not a big deal, but if it is pierced by superpowers instead of a physical sword, the damage will be great. Looking at Jengar, whose body is somewhat unstable under the heavy blow, Xuanjian ordered, "Beautiful, Butterfree, use the mental power again." Seeing Butterfree launch the mental sword again, Yuji did not dare to neglect it and immediately ordered, "Jengar, let's use the mental power as well." The Ghost-type Shadow Ball and the Psychic-type mental power collided and suffered a loss, so I can also use the Psychic-type skills. Unfortunately, reality is cruel. Although Jengar's special attack is much higher than Butterfree, it is undoubtedly a weakling compared to Butterfree, which can rival the psychic power of psychic Pokémon. After the 2 mental waves collided, Jengar's mental wave quickly retreated. After Butterfree's mental power broke through Jengar's counterattack, it fell on Jengar again, causing it to scream. "It's over, Butterfree will use another mental power." Compared to Jengar, who was holding his head and screaming in pain due to the backlash of failing the mental power competition. Butterfree's mental power is completely different. There is no need to take any rest. Butterfree sent out a mental power again under Xuanjian's command. This attack is enough to take away Jengar, who has been injured many times. Seeing that the purple mental sword is about to hit Jengar again, Yuji calmly issued an order, Zheng same fate. Hearing the order of his trainer, Jengar endured the headache and blew out a black smoke, which turned into a chain connecting himself and Butterfree. Then, he lost consciousness under the impact of the mental power. Immediately, under the effect of the same fate skill, Butterfree also lost its combat power. Zheng and Butterfree lost their combat power at the same time. Chief Trainer Yuji lost 3 Pokémon. Now we will exchange venues. Please take back the Pokémon. Hearing the referee's words, Xuanjian and Yuji hurriedly took back the Pokémon. At this time, the audience on the field came to their senses and the audience seats suddenly boiled. It's so shocking. Mr. Xuanjian, the challenger from Kanto and the youngest researcher, actually defeated the 3 Pokémon of the chief trainer Yuji with 1 Butterfree. This is something that has never happened in the history of the winner. Dear audience, please remember this day and this game. You have witnessed the birth of a miracle. This will be a record that no one can surpass for a long time. Ignoring the boiling audience and the excited commentary, Xuanjian gently stroked Butterfree's Pokeball. You did a great job, Butterfree. Did you hear that? This is a miracle, a record that has never been seen before. You should have a good rest. As he said that, Xuanjian handed the Pokeball to the therapist on the side. In this kind of competition, the Pokémons often fight with bruises all over their bodies, so there are medical staff waiting for rescue at any time on the sidelines to prevent accidents to the Pokémons. Please. Xuanjian bowed to the other party. Leave it to us. The therapist said. They also admired this young man who set a record, but his excellent professional qualities did not make them forget their work. After taking the Pokeball, they quickly left with Butterfree. Watching them leave, Xuanjian exhaled, then turned around and looked at the venue. Compared to the initial trepidation, Xuanjian was now much more relaxed. Yuji had already lost 3 elves, while he only lost 1. He had an absolute advantage. Now he had to consider how to win more beautifully. Business trips are so hard. Why do others think business trips are so relaxing? I will probably update weekly from now on. I don't have time to ride on weekdays. Chapter 171 Winner's Cup. In the arena, the venue that was drawn immediately has been replaced. It is not the water venue that Xuanjian is most looking forward to, but the grass venue full of green grass. In response to this venue, Yuji summoned his own grass-type starter Pokémon in Kanto, Venusaur. Seeing Venusaur, Xuanjian also became excited and said, okay, then let's have a battle of grass-type Pokémon first. Come on, Leaf Pokémon. Counting the time at the glass gym, this is the second time that Leaf Pokémon has appeared in front of the public. Its cute appearance immediately attracted the attention of the audience, and the well-prepared commentary also introduced this newly appeared grass-type Pokémon to the audience. Xuanjian looked up and saw that the weather was good today, which was very suitable for the battle of grass-type Pokémon. With the blessing of the grass venue, the combat power of grass-type Pokémon was undoubtedly brought to the extreme. In the sun, Leaf Pokémon and Venusaur stretched their bodies as much as possible to absorb the sun's radiation, intending to store as much energy as possible before the official start of the game. With the referee's order, the 2 Pokémons acted at the same time. Leaf Elf, Shadow Ball. Vulpecula, Root. Following Yuji's order, Venusaur was huge and could not move as flexibly as the petite Leaf Elf. Considering this, Yuji gave up the idea of moving and continued to recover his physical strength. Shadow Ball hit Venusaur first. Under the corrosion of ghost energy, Venusaur showed a painful look. Then, dense roots extended from the pistil on the back of Venusaur and pierced into the soil, restoring Venusaur's physical strength. Leaf Elf used the cross scissors to cut those roots. Venusaur's physical strength was originally stronger than that of Leaf Elf. If it was allowed to use rooting to recover, the battle would eventually be dragged into a protracted war, and Leaf Elf would definitely be worn down by then. I won't let you succeed, Venusaur. Whip. Compared with Bulbasaur, which can only use 2 whips, Venusaur can use many more whips. At Yogxi's command, thick vine whips shot out from its back, like twisting snakes, and entangled the Leaf Elf. The Leaf Elf kept dodging with its flexible body, But there were too many vine whips, and it was difficult to completely dodge them at once. In order not to be entangled by the vine whips, the leaf elf could only use the cross scissors skill on the vine whips. As a bug type skill, the cross scissors was very easy to deal with the drafting type vine whips. Under the cross energy emitted by the claws, the thick vine whips were cut off, and the leaf elf also escaped from the siege of the vine whips. Although the vine whips can be regenerated continuously, the vine whips being cut off still brought great pain to Bulbasaur, and the regeneration of the vine whips could not be completed in a short time. Without the vine whips, Bulbasaur would lose an important means to restrain the leaf elf. Therefore, Bulbasaur quickly took back the remaining vine whips and did not dare to give the leaf elf another chance to attack. After retracting the vine whip, Yuji issued another order: Bulbasaur, parasitic seeds. Looking at the retracted vine whip with regret, Xuanjian felt a little regretful, but when he saw the parasitic seeds shot by Bulbasaur, Xuanjian didn't care about being upset. Once you are entangled by the parasitic seeds, not only will you be constantly drained of your physical strength, but your movements will also be affected. Thinking of this, Xuanjian ordered, Leaf Elf, use the magic leaf to block the parasitic seeds. The structure of the parasitic seeds is like the cockleburr in the previous life. The surface is covered with tiny burrs, and there is also a layer of colloid. Once it touches the body, it will stick to it firmly. It is not feasible to attack this kind of thing at close range, which will only increase the chance of its attachment. Fortunately, although the leaf elf is not good at it, it still has many special attack skills. Under its urging, pieces of magic leaves flew out in a spiral, blocking the path of the parasitic seeds and knocking them down from the air. The parasitic seeds that failed to attach successfully could not absorb power, and soon shrank and lost their vitality. After blocking the parasitic seeds, Xuanjian hadn't breathed a sigh of relief yet, when he saw the pistol on Bulbasaur's back begin to glow, clearly about to launch the grass-type ultimate move, Sun Flame. Although Leaf Elf had a record of resisting Sun Flame, Xuanjian still didn't dare to take it lightly and ordered, Leaf Elf, Grass Flute. Upon receiving the order, Leaf Elf immediately shook the leaves and tail on its head, making waves of soothing flute sounds. Under the hypnosis of the grass flute, Bulbasaur's eyelids kept drooping. After resisting in vain, it stopped releasing Sun Flame and fell asleep in the warm sunshine. Okay, Xuanjian breathed a sigh of relief when he saw Bulbasaur fall into deep sleep, and ordered, Leaf Elf, use Sword Dance until Bulbasaur wakes up. With a dual recovery of rooting and sleeping, it is almost impossible for Leaf Elf to knock it down before Bulbasaur wakes up. Instead of wasting effort, it is better to improve itself and prepare for the fatal blow. The field fell into a stalemate for a while. Leaf Elf was constantly strengthening itself, while Xuanzi was trying to wake up the sleeping Bulbasaur. The sleeping time was long and short. If it was too long, the sword dance strengthening would end, and then Leaf Elf could completely defeat the sleeping Bulbasaur. Under Yangtze's call, Bulbasaur showed signs of waking up when Leaf Elf completed the second sword dance. Xuanjian did not dare to neglect and immediately launched a final foreshadowing. Leaf Elf, use Sunny Day. With the release of Sunny Day, the sun in the sky became hotter, and Leaf Elf also glowed green, officially activating the chlorophyll characteristics, and Bulbasaur also left the sleeping state and woke up from sleep with full energy. Leaf Elf, use our trump card. The skills of the 5 attributes have been collected, and it's time to activate the collection. Yangtze's face was solemn. Although Xuanjian used a secret code to let him guess what skills Leaf Elf would use, his good combat quality told him that the opponent's next move would not be simple. At this time, there was no need to care too much. Yangtze ordered, Bulbasaur, use hardened plants to stop the Leaf Fairy. Bulbasaur has the power to manipulate plants. Under its urging, a large amount of green grass on the ground grew wildly, turning into sharp thorns, or erected to form fences to protect Bulbasaur, or stabbed the Leaf Fairy, trying to stop the Leaf Fairy's steps. Unfortunately, Yangtze underestimated the speed of the Leaf Fairy on a sunny day. With the blessing of the chlorophyll characteristics, the Leaf Fairy was as fast as a flash of lightning, flashing through the thorns, and then lightly jumped over the wall of thorns and landed in front of Bulbasaur. Then the leaves on the ford were raised high and hit Bulbasaur heavily. The power of the collection is not much lower than the general big move, Megaton Impact, but the conditions for using it are too harsh. With the help of the energy block, this harsh condition was greatly shortened. The Leaf Fairy's own physical attack is very good, and after 2 sword dances, The treasure it uses is very powerful. Venusaur's huge body was swept away by it, and the roots on its back that were buried in this oil were also pulled out, causing the whole audience to exclaim. Leaf Elf, Swallow Return. Panting, Leaf Elf used Swallow Return with all her might, and hit Venusaur's belly hard before it landed. Venusaur, which had already fallen, was knocked out again and hit the wall of the arena heavily, losing its fighting power under the heavy blow. Vulpecula loses its fighting power, Leaf Elf wins. Chapter 172 Winner's Cup. Well done, Leaf Elf. Xuanjian praised the panting Leaf Elf. Although the information asymmetry was used, if the Leaf Elf was not strong enough, it would not be enough to defeat Venusaur in one fell swoop. Now the opponent only has 2 Pokémon left. Even if Dragonite is invincible, it will be exhausted to death. What he needs to consider is how to win beautifully. Looking at the Leaf Elf on the field, Yongxi hesitated for a while, and finally took off the Pokéball around his neck. Go. Dragonite, please. He also had an electric-type electric monster in his hand, and was absolutely at a disadvantage against the grass-type Leaf Elf, so he could only send out his trump card Dragonite first. Following Yongxi's action, a yellow figure appeared, and the whole audience immediately boiled. The commentator said, Dragonite. It's Mr. Yuji's Dragonite that's here. This is Mr. Yuji's real trump card. In the past, it was the last Pokemon to appear, but today it appeared early. It seems that Mr. Genma has put a lot of pressure on our chief trainer. Let's take a look. In addition to Butterfree, which has lost its combat effectiveness, Mr. Genma still has 5 Pokemon that remain combat effective. If Mr. Yuji wants to turn defeat into victory, Dragonite must defeat at least 4 of his opponent's Pokemon. This is a difficult task. Can Dragonite accomplish it? Let's wait and see. Dragonite, the quasi-god of Kanto. Genma looked at this mighty Pokemon and said with some envy. Although it is a quasi-god, Dragonite is more powerful than the second-level beasts such as the 3 mythical birds. But even for Dragonite, facing a Pokemon with well-preserved strength, it is almost impossible to defeat 4 or even 5 at once. You are bound to lose. Genma did not launch an attack immediately, but played a psychological tactic, trying to add some pressure to Yuji. Yongxi obviously saw through Xuanjian's purpose, but after looking at the sun in the sky, he decided to play with Xuanjian. Dragonite is my strongest Pokemon. Many people believe that the real duel in the Winner's Cup is about how to deal with Dragonite. Before Dragonite falls, no one can say that they have won. You are indeed very strong, but I have killed more than one opponent like you. Really? You are so confident. Xuanjian smiled. I remember that you have no record of failure so far, so let me break it. That's impossible. Yongxi pointed to the sun in the sky and said, by the way, you have been talking nonsense for so long, didn't you notice that the sunny day skill is about to end? Of course I noticed it, Xuanjian said with a smile as he looked at the rapidly weakening sunlight in the sky. The biggest advantage of grass-type Pokemon is that as long as there is sunlight, they can continuously restore their physical strength through photosynthesis. Although it is slightly slower than skills, it is an all-round recovery of energy and physical strength. I want to thank you for giving my Leaf Pokemon recovery time. Leaf Pokemon, another sunny day. Hearing Xuanjian's words, Yuji was a little angry. He had planned for the opponent, but he didn't expect that he would be outmaneuvered by the opponent. However, he had already found a way to crack the opponent's tactics, so it would be useless even if the opponent planned for him. Dragonite, use Spray Rain. In the real world, using weather skills is not like in the game where the latter covers the former, but is determined by the understanding of the skills and the level of power of both parties. After all, you can't expect a walking grass to use a clear sky to cover the Spray Rain released by Kyogre. Compared with Leaf Spirit, Dragonite's understanding of weather skills is much more advanced. After all, it evolved from Haxorus that can control the weather. Leaf Spirit's clear sky only stalemated with Spray Rain for a while, and was immediately suppressed by Spray Rain. Dark clouds began to form in the sky, and then a light rain fell. Without the blessing of the sunny day, the real strength of the Leaf Elf is not even comparable to that of the Bulbasaur it just defeated, and it is even more of a food for Dragonite. Therefore, Xuanjian decided to change people without hesitation. Leaf Elf, use Baton. A flash of light passed, and the Leaf Elf turned into a red light and returned to the Pokeball, and at the same time exchanged with Mantis, and at the same time passed the enhancement of the two sword dances to Mantis, making its physical attack reach an extremely terrifying level, and even the surface of the body was shining because of the energy load. Mantis. Yongxi's face was a little ugly. After all, the most effective skill for Mantis is the fire attribute skill, but it is currently in a rainy state, and the fire attribute skills have been greatly weakened, but he can't care so much. Dragonite. Use thunder. Mantis. Use lightning flash. Due to the characteristics of light metal, Mantis is much faster when it suddenly bursts out to attack. I saw its legs kick the ground fiercely, and the giant Mantis turned into a stream of light and rushed towards Dragonite. When Dragonite used the thunder skill, it hit it and knocked it back. Next, Giant Mantis, Bullet Punch. The special defense of Giant Mantis is not high. If Dragonite successfully uses thunder, it will definitely suffer huge damage. It must be interrupted. The red giant claws shot countless phantoms in the air, which looked like the Pegasus Meteor Fist in Saint Seiya. Although the bullet punch is very fast, it is not powerful. However, with the improvement of the technical master characteristics, the power is still considerable. Coupled with the terrible physical attack of Giant Mantis, Dragonite, which was hot in the head, was dizzy, and even the thunder and lightning in the sky stopped. Dragonite, fly! Yongxi shouted. In close combat, Dragonite is undoubtedly at a great disadvantage compared to Giant Mantis, which has a large number of first-order skills. Looking at the shaky flying Dragonite, Xuanjian immediately understood the opponent's thoughts. Don't try to escape, Mantis. Use Swallow Return to shoot it down. Even if it can't fly, Mantis can still attack low-altitude targets with its excellent bounce. It flapped its wings and drew a beautiful arc in the air, hitting the fleeing Dragonite from above and knocking it down from the air. However, Dragonite was not a pushover. When Mantis landed on its back, it immediately tightened and wrapped it up, making it unable to escape. That's it, Dragonite. Use 100,000 volts. Yongxi ordered loudly. Mantis, hold on. The electrical tricks did not cause much damage to Mantis, but it would cause terrible paralysis, making Mantis's movement sluggish. Therefore, Xuanjian ordered Mantis to use hold without hesitation. The golden energy enveloped Mantis, bouncing off the golden electric light emitted by Dragonite. Under the protection of Xiaozu, Mantis was not hurt, but Dragonite was hurt by the electric current spreading along the rain. However, Dragonite's fighting quality was very good, and it did not move at all under the attack of the electric current. Seeing that Dragonite's attack failed and he was hurt instead, Yongxi showed a smile of success at the corner of his mouth. At the moment when the skill of Xiaozu ended, Yongxi ordered, Dragonite, use Jet Flame. Oh no, we fell into the trap. Mantis, use Xiaozu again. Xuanjian only had time to issue such an order, and saw a raging fire shot out of Dragonite's mouth, drowning Mantis. Chapter 173 Winner's Cup. When the guard is used continuously, the success rate will decrease. This time, the goddess of luck is obviously not on Xuanjian's side. The guard fails and the giant Mantis is engulfed by the raging flames. The giant Mantis has a low immunity to special attack skills, not to mention the fire skills that severely restrain it. Under the scorching flames, the giant Mantis loses its combat effectiveness. It's so beautiful, another amazing reversal. Mr. Yuji's tactics successfully deceived Xuanjian, allowing Mantis to release the defense skill in advance, and was eventually hit by the jet of fire and lost its combat effectiveness. Dragonite successfully reversed the situation of being suppressed by Mantis, defeated Mantis in one fell swoop, and won the victory. Come back, Mantis. Xuanjian took back the Mantis that had lost its combat effectiveness and said, as expected of Yuji's Dragonite, it actually learned fire skills. I was careless. Dragonite evolved from Hakron and was relatively better at water skills, but I didn't expect that Yuji's Dragonite actually learned to jet fire. Coupled with its own water skills and electrical skills, Dragonite's attack surface covers almost all attributes, worthy of being its trump card. In that case, then I will also take out my trump card. Go, Charizard. After a period of time, the rain-praying skill was approaching its end, and Charizard appeared and directly sprayed a stream of fire at the sky, dispersing the remaining dark clouds in the sky and letting the sun shine again. Compared to its peers, Xuanjian's Charizard is slightly larger, but still smaller than Dragonite. However, its wingspan is much larger than Dragonite, so the two Pokémon seem to be evenly matched in the air. Charizard and Dragonite, two Pokémons with extremely similar appearances, and both of whom are strong among Pokémons, ignited a fierce fighting spirit as soon as they met and confronted each other. Dragonite, go forward and use Thunder Punch. Yuji took the lead in launching a tentative attack. Charizard, get up into the air and dodge, then use Dragon's Fury. Although it wanted to fight Dragonite head-on, Charizard also knew that it could not beat the opponent in melee combat. Following Xuanjian's command, it flapped its wings and flew up, and at the same time, it did not forget to turn around and send Dragonite a Dragon's Fury, and at the same time stretched out its finger to make a contemptuous gesture towards Dragonite, who was dodging the attack. Dragonite was a little annoyed by Charizard's provocation, but it did not act on its own as it strictly followed the trainer's orders, but waited for Yuji's order. Yongxi also saw Charizard's action, and he immediately ordered, Dragonite, chase it. If the opponent chooses to fly into the air for an aerial battle, then he will not be afraid of fighting, because Dragonite is known as the fastest flying Pokémon. Seeing Dragonite get up and rush towards Charizard, Xuanjian secretly cheered. Although Dragonite is known as the fastest flying Pokémon, Xuanjian felt that it could not beat Charizard in an aerial battle. After all, its wingspan was too small. Although it had the floating ability left over from the Hakron period to assist, it only had an advantage in straight-line flight, but it was undoubtedly at a disadvantage in aerial combat that required more flexibility. After Dragonite took off, Charizard immediately used the Swallow Return and rushed towards Dragonite. Dragonite did not dare to neglect it, and immediately accelerated its climb to avoid Charizard's attack and sprayed a water gun to fight back. Seeing the water gun, Charizard did not dare to neglect it, and immediately dodged sideways, while spraying flames to fight back. The two Pokémons were like two fighter planes, constantly moving in the air and engaging in a fierce aerial battle. Everything was just as Xuanjian expected. Although Dragonite was better at straight-line sprinting, it was much less flexible and soon fell behind. It was also caught by Charizard by the tail. Xuanjian would not miss such a great opportunity and immediately ordered, Charizard, Earth Throw. Earth Throw, after restricting the opponent's movements, takes the opponent to fall from a high altitude, and uses the gravity of the Earth to accelerate, and finally throws the opponent out when close to the ground, so as to transfer its own momentum to the opponent, causing greater damage to the opponent while achieving its own deceleration and safe landing. This kind of attack method is undoubtedly difficult to be immune to. The difficulty lies in how to catch the opponent and restrict its movements. Dragonite, whose tail was caught, realized that something was wrong and tried desperately to break free and counterattack, but unfortunately it was ineffective. Although Dragonite is not like the Saiyan, once the tail is caught, it will be completely passive after the tail is caught, and the body cannot remain stable, so that all skills cannot be used smoothly. Unless it cuts off its tail to survive like a gecko, it can only be at the mercy of Charizard. Grabbing Dragonite's tail, Charizard flew up to a certain height, then turned around and dived down, smashing Dragonite to the ground heavily. Although Charizard completed a series of attacks, the whole process actually took only more than 10 seconds. The audience stared at Charizard's series of actions closely, and even forgot to breathe in the tension. It was not until Dragonite's body collided violently with the ground, stirring up a large cloud of dust, that they came back to their senses and breathed in fresh air in big gulps. Charizard also breathed in big gulps. It was not an easy task to complete the Earth Throw with Dragonite, a guy who was much heavier than itself. Is it over? Xuanjian thought as he looked at the venue covered by dust. He felt that Dragonite was indeed seriously injured, but whether this degree of injury made it lose its combat effectiveness was an unknown. He could only wait until the dust settled before he could draw a conclusion. However, Xuanjian miscalculated again. He saw a red meteor suddenly shot out from the dust. Charizard, who had been prepared, immediately avoided it, but he did not expect that it was just a feint, and the real attack was behind. After the skill was launched into the air, it immediately exploded and turned into a sky full of meteors shooting at Charizard. This was the Dragon-type ultimate move, Sky Dragon Meteor, that is Dragon Star Group. Even though Charizard dodged everywhere, it was still covered by a large number of meteors and suffered considerable damage. Even the membrane of its wings was pierced, and it had to fall from the sky. After Charizard fell, Dragonite in the dust showed its figure. It was seen lying prone in a large pit, with its limbs twisted into a weird shape, and it was obviously seriously fractured. When it collided with the ground just now, Dragonite finally adjusted its balance and used its limbs to contact the ground first for cushioning. In this way, although its limbs were fractured, it at least preserved most of its combat power and quickly counterattacked, making Charizard lose its ability to fly. Dragonite, use 100,000 volts. Yongxi ordered. Charizard, Yuki. Charizard's wings were seriously injured and it completely lost its ability to fly, so it might as well give up the flying attribute completely. Under the Golden Lightning, Charizard used the Feather Roost skill, which not only greatly reduced the damage, but also restored a certain amount of physical strength. And Happy also flapped his wings under the cover of the lightning and flew back to the sky. With broken limbs, it could only rely on flying to move. Watching Dragonite take off, Yongxi suddenly said to Xuanjian, "You are very strong, and my Dragonite is almost at its limit. I will definitely lose this game, but I want to finish this game beautifully. How about we use the last attack together?" "Okay," Xuanjian nodded. Charizard was almost at its limit. Since the opponent invited him, let's fight hard. Charizard, pay attention, use our strongest attack. As he said that, Xuanjian began to communicate with a crystal on his arm. Dragonite, use Mega Impact. Charizard, use Golden Flame of the Sun. Dragonite in the sky folded its wings and curled up into a ball. With the power of the skill and the acceleration of gravity, it smashed towards Charizard. Charizard also combined its own energy with natural energy and sprayed golden flames at Dragonite. The energy of Golden Flame of the Sun was too strong, and Charizard could not control it perfectly. Therefore, in addition to the core part, a large amount of energy escaped, allowing Charizard's attack to almost cover the entire sky of the arena. Dragonite falling from the sky was no less powerful. Under its huge falling force, the air was constantly split, forming a wind belt visible to the naked eye. The collision between the two undoubtedly produced a shocking explosion. The golden flames in the sky were blown away, and Dragonite's body surface was burned black, and then blood and flesh were blurred in the explosion. Under the obstruction of the golden flame, Dragonite's speed was reduced. When it finally hit Charizard, its power was almost the same as that of a normal collision skill. However, Charizard was also at the end of its strength. Under the attack of Dragonite, it finally fell down unwillingly. Dragonite and Charizard both lost their combat effectiveness. It's a draw. The referee quickly gave the result, and then professional medical staff rushed up and took the two Pokémons for treatment. The final collision between Charizard and Dragonite was full of effort. Both sides were seriously injured and could not even get back the Pokéball. They went straight to the hospital. Watching the medical staff take Dragonite away, Yongxi raised his hand to the referee. "Referee, I give up." Yongxi's action immediately attracted the attention of the whole audience, and the whole audience was in an uproar. Although everyone could see that Yongxi was completely at a disadvantage, no one expected him to take the initiative to give up. "My strongest Dragonite has lost its combat effectiveness, but the opponent still has 3 intact Pokémon. I can't win the game with just 1 Electabuzz. And the game just now is so exciting. I think it's better to win this challenge with it," Yuji explained to the referee. Although the league generally does not allow the chief trainer to surrender in order to prevent him from deliberately letting the opponent win, the gap between the two in this game is too big, so surrender is completely reasonable. The referee thought for a moment, nodded, and then announced, "Mr. Yuji admits defeat, so the winner of this game is Mr. Xuanjian." Hearing the referee's words, the audience immediately applauded excitedly. There are defenders who have been crushed by challengers in the history of the Victor's Cup, but most of them were when the chief trainer was weaker. Yuji is recognized as the strongest chief trainer in the history of the Orange League, but he was unexpectedly completely suppressed by his opponent and even made the first surrender in the history of the Orange League. It's incredible. As an audience, they witnessed a birth of this record with their own eyes. In an instant, the audience actually felt like they were witnessing history. After the game, the two walked to the center of the arena and shook hands as a symbol of friendship. Yuji said, "Thank you, Xuanjian. I have never met a trainer as strong as you before. You let me see the level of a truly powerful trainer and let me know that I was too arrogant before. Please stay here and become the chief trainer." Xuanjian felt a little embarrassed when he heard what Yuji said. Because of the importance he attached to this game, he took out all his strength and finally won with unprecedented results. But this does not mean that Xuanjian is the strongest among all trainers who have challenged the Winner's Cup, because many trainers do not go all out like he does when challenging. If he is blindly complacent because of this, Then he will never be able to make progress again. Shaking his head, Xuanjian refused and said, "Thank you for your invitation. But I want to go somewhere else, so I can only say sorry." Yongxi nodded and said, "Alice, I really refused. I also want you to take over as the chief trainer, so that I can go out to travel. Don't you really want to consider it? The benefits of the chief trainer are very good." Xuanjian smiled awkwardly and said, "No, thank you. You said it so clearly that you can't leave as the chief trainer unless you find someone to take over. How can you jump into such a pit?" Next, Xuanjian received the trophy according to the established procedures, accepted the cheers of the audience, and took photos with the elves and left-hand prince as a souvenir. These things will be placed in the victor's palace on the island as a commemoration of the challenge. "I think your photo is probably the most unique photo in the collection of the victor's palace," Duoga said, raising the photo in his hand. Compared with the happy photos of elves and trainers and other trainers' photos, Xuanjian's photo completely reflects how elves lose their temper with unreliable masters. In the photo, Gyarados is roaring at Xuanjian with its mouth wide open, and the jewel starfish attached to its head is using a water gun to wash Xuanjian's face, who is trying to appease Gyarados, while others are playing the role of spectators. Although it seems that Gyarados is angry with its master, under the careful composition of the photographer, it is still easy to feel the strong bond between Xuanjian and the elves. Compared to that, my headache is this. Xuanjian pointed to the clay tablet beside him. In order to vent his dissatisfaction, Gyarados took the lead in leaving a mark before leaving a mark. Gyarados, who has no hands or feet, can only use its tail to leave a mark, so that in the end, only the tail mark left by it can be seen on the entire clay tablet. Duoga also looked at the clay sculpture that was completely occupied by Gyarados' tail mark speechlessly, and suggested, "We can only let other elves leave their marks on Gyarados' mark." Xuanjian said dejectedly, "This is the only way." After completing the souvenir, Xuanjian and Duoga decided to return to Kanto after touring the Citrus Island. However, perhaps because neither of them knew how to deal with the questions they would face after arriving in Kanto, they both chose to give up taking the faster and more convenient airship or cruise ship, and instead took a dragon on their return journey. Chapter 174 Pollination Conference. Since they were returning by dragon, they would inevitably have to rest on other islands along the way. One day, when the two passed by a small island, Duoga suddenly said, "Hey, what? Do you smell a flower fragrance?" Xuanjian sniffed, and indeed there was a faint flower fragrance. After looking through the map, Xuanjian said, "This should be the 7 fruit islands. Now is the season for pomelo to bloom. This fragrance should be the fragrance of the pomelo tree blooming. The 7 fruit islands are full of pomelo. This season should be the season for pomelo to bloom all over the mountains. It's a rare opportunity. Let's go for a tour." Duoga certainly couldn't refuse such a proposal, and immediately nodded in agreement without hesitation. Then, Xuanjian took out the Pokeball from his waist. "Go, Butterfree, find the place with the strongest fragrance and lead the way for us." Butterfree nodded and immediately flapped its wings and flew in one direction. For it, looking for nectar is its instinct, and the place with the strongest fragrance must be the place with the most nectar and the best flowers. It can't wait to taste the delicious nectar. Under the leadership of Butterfree, the two soon came to a group of small islands. They saw that the small islands were completely covered with white pomelo flowers, which were decorated into flower islands, which were beautiful. After choosing an island with the most lush flowers, the two went to the island to play. While the two were playing, Butterfree flapped its wings and flew to the pomelo tree and began to taste the delicious nectar. However, unlike ordinary Butterfree, which directly uses nectar with its mouth and hands, Butterfree's method of eating is more advanced. It was seen that it launched telekinesis towards the pomelo tree, and the pollen and nectar in the flowers floated up under the effect of telekinesis. Butterfree used telekinesis to gather the nectar together, then swallowed it in one gulp, and then did not forget to use the silver wind to evenly spread the pollen to other flowers to help them complete pollination. After a while, Butterfree completed the pollination of a large area of pomelo trees. Is Butterfree helping the pomelo trees to pollinate? So amazing! Duoga said as he watched Butterfree's movements. Xuanjian nodded and said proudly, "Butterfree is originally a spirit that feeds on nectar. While collecting nectar, it also helps pollinate plants. However, Butterfree in nature is not as strong as me, and it is impossible to collect nectar and pollinate in such an efficient way." Hearing Xuanjian's praise, Butterfree worked even harder. It was seen dancing a graceful butterfly dance, its wings passing over the pomelo trees full of white flowers, drawing out the pollen from the flowers one by one, and then scattering it on the pomelo flowers, so that each flower was evenly pollinated. While the two were admiring Butterfree's graceful dance, a green-haired woman came to them. "Hello, are you here to help with pollination at the 7 Fruit Islands?" Xuanjian looked at the woman on the speedboat and did not answer her question directly. Instead, he asked with some confusion, "Are you, Miss Nana?" Hearing Xuanjian's words, the other party was a little surprised and said, "Yes, I am Nana, the person in charge of the 7 Fruit Islands. This little brother looks familiar, have we met?" Xuanjian smiled, "Miss Nana, I am Xuanjian from Kyanmo village in Kanto. Although this is the first time we meet, we talked on the phone last year." "Oh, I remember." Nana suddenly realized, "By the way, I also want to thank you for your help. Last year's pomelo successfully completed pollination. A year has passed in a blink of an eye. I didn't expect that you would come to the Orange Islands to travel. We are ready to return to Kanto, but we were attracted by the fragrance of flowers when we passed by, so we came to the island to play." Xuanjian explained. "You came at a great time. Except for the pomelo harvest, now is the most beautiful time in the 7 Fruit Islands. And today, in order to express our gratitude to the trainers and Pokémon who came to help with pollination and to celebrate the new round of pomelo flowers, we specially held a pollination meeting to celebrate." "Pollination meeting? It sounds interesting. Can we participate?" Xuanjian said. "Of course. And aren't you already helping with pollination? Please follow me." Following Nana, Xuanjian and Duji came to the beach by the sea of the island. At this time, many trainers have gathered here. There is a Pokémon flying around them that can be used for pollination. Most of them are Butterfree, and a few are moth-like Pokémon from other places, such as the hunting swallowtail. Xuanjian even found a blue butterfly from the Kalos region. "It's so lively!" Duji exclaimed. Nana nodded. "Every year, many trainers come here. It's a rare spectacle." Xuanjian looked around and said, "Most of them are butterfly Pokémon. In fact, I don't think they are the most suitable elves for you. After all butterfly Pokémon can't make honey, and all the pollen is used for pollination, which is a bit wasteful. If you can use the excess pollen to make honey, then you will have more income." "Make honey? What is that? Is it a skill of Pokémon?" Although the giant bee also has the word bee in it, it is actually more like a wasp in the previous life and can't make nectar at all. So the honey people use for seasoning is mostly nectar produced by plant Pokémon, not brood nectar. So most people don't know what making honey is all about. Xuanjian shook his head and said, "Honey making is when insects use pollen to make a kind of honey, which tastes better than sugar. Kanto and Johto, which are closer to the Orange Islands, don't have Pokémon that can make honey, but I know that there is a Pokémon called Tribebe in the Kalos region, and its female individuals can evolve into Peak Queen. Both are elves that are very good at making nectar, and the best thing is that this elf is more docile than Beedrill, and it is a large social Pokémon with Peak Queen as the main body, which is very suitable for you to use." Hearing Xuanjian's words, Nana's eyes lit up. "Really? I didn't expect there would be such a Pokémon. It sounds very suitable for us." "Yes," Xuanjian nodded and said, "the Kalos region is too far away from us, so most people haven't heard of it. They don't know that there are some Pokémon there that are different from here. If you can introduce Tribebe, I believe you will have a very good harvest. The trainer with a butterfly over there should be from the Kalos region. Let's go and ask him." "Okay," Nana said, and then the three of them walked towards each other. Xuanjian glanced at Butterfree beside him. He proposed to contact the trainer who might be from Kalos because of this guy. Since arriving on the beach, Xuanjian noticed that Butterfree's attention has always been focused on the Butterfree next to the trainer. It is obvious that Butterfree has fallen in love with a Butterfree. Chapter 175 Elf Hunter. The trainer with a Butterfree was called Spearow, a trainer who came to the Orange Islands from the Kalos region for vacation. After knowing the purpose of everyone's visit, he enthusiastically expressed his willingness to help. After a conversation, Spearow and Nana reached an agreement, and then Nana left to do other things, leaving the three of them to talk together. "Is this the Butterfree from the Kalos region? So beautiful," Duoga said as he looked at the Butterfree surrounded by a group of Butterfree. Although the Butterfree is a very common insect-type Pokémon in the Kalos region, it is very rare in the Orange Islands. Therefore, The Butterfree attracted the attention of many Butterfrees as soon as it appeared, and was regarded as the most perfect courtship object by them. Compared to Duoge, Xuanjian's focus was different. He asked, "Your blue butterfly seems to be able to change the color of its wings freely? I remember that its color seemed to be much darker than it is now. It's amazing that you discovered it." Quirrell said, "I am a performer. Blue Butterfly is my favorite Pokémon because it can change its wings into different colors and patterns according to the climate of the area where it is located. I further cultivated it on this basis and let my Blue Butterfly master the ability to change the pattern of its wings freely." Quirrell snapped his fingers at Blue Butterfly, and Blue Butterfly immediately changed its originally dark blue wings into bright red. "This is a modern pattern. My Blue Butterfly can change into 25 different colors of patterns. Blue Butterfly, show it a little bit." Following Quirrell's command, Blue Butterfly flew while constantly changing the pattern on its wings. Its actions not only attracted the attention of the trainers present, but also attracted all the opposite-sex butterfly to it, flying around it up and down, constantly sending courtship signals to it. However, Butterfree was completely unmoved by the goodwill shown by Butterfree, and she quietly enjoyed the support of Butterfree like a queen. "The racial value of Butterfree is much higher than that of Butterfree, and my Butterfree has been carefully cultivated, so it will be difficult for Butterfree to catch up with it. Don't pair my Butterfree with an ordinary Pokémon," Quirrell said arrogantly. "The beautiful Butterfree is a rich and beautiful woman, while Butterfree is a group of losers. It is very difficult for them to counterattack, and with the obstruction of the trainers, the difficulty is simply hell level." Perhaps because God couldn't stand Quirrell's arrogance, Quirrell suddenly felt dizzy and fell to the ground. Not only Quirrell, but other trainers also fainted on the ground. "What's wrong with everyone?" Xuanjian looked at the fainted people and had a bad premonition. Someone drugged them. Duoga picked up the food that fell from Qiluo's hand, and after a little identification, he said, "They put hypnotic drugs in the food at the banquet. What's the purpose?" The answer was soon revealed. A toucan flew out of the woods and rushed to the side of the butterfly. It grabbed the butterfly with its strong claws and flew it to a masked man on the side. "Well done," the other party praised. "Who are you?" "Put down the butterfly," Duoga said. "It's a Pokemon hunter," Xuanjian said, looking at the badge on the other party's chest. Pokemon hunter is the name of a type of illegal trainer. These guys have no sense of morality and law. They will do anything for profit. They are notorious and are a big cancer in society. You are quite knowledgeable. You recognized my identity. Hearing Xuanjian's words, the other party said coldly, "I didn't expect that there were still 2 fish that slipped through the net, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, the target has been obtained. The rare butterfly Pokemon that has never been seen before can change color. It will definitely sell for a good price." As he said, the other party took out a Pokeball specially used to snatch other people's Pokemon and wanted to put the blue butterfly caught by the toucan into it. As if foreseeing its tragic fate, the blue butterfly cried for help, and the Butterfrees immediately flapped their wings and rushed towards the toucan, trying to rescue the blue Butterfrees. Seeing the Butterfrees rushing up, the Pokemon hunter cursed, "Get out of the way, troublesome guy." Then he took out a Pokeball and opened it. Then a Jengar blocked the Butterfrees. The Jengar sneered and sent out 100,000 volts, shooting down the Butterfrees one after another. The combat effectiveness of these Butterfrees was not very good. After being hit by 100,000 volts, they lost their combat effectiveness one after another. Trash Pokemon are trash. They can't even withstand a blow from my Jengar. I wanted to capture you all, but now it seems like you won't be worth much. Looking at the arrogant Pokemon hunter, Xuanjian said, "That's not necessarily true. Not all Butterfree have lost their combat effectiveness. Butterfree, use Illusion Beam on Toucan." Following Xuanjian's order, a Butterfree that was originally lying on the ground suddenly turned into a light spot and scattered. That was the scene after the stand skill ended. Just now, Xuanjian's Butterfree used the stand to avoid Jengar's 100,000 volts. Butterfree's disappeared figure quickly reappeared in the sky, and then used the Illusion Beam on Toucan. The Illusion Beam accurately hit Toucan and created a confusion effect. Butterfree took the opportunity to escape from Toucan's claws and hid behind Butterfree. "There's still 1 fish that slipped through the net," the Pokemon hunter frowned as he looked at the escaped Butterfree and Butterfree, feeling a little annoyed, "but this kind of guy can be easily dealt with. Jengar, use another 100,000 volts." "Humph, it's still uncertain who will deal with whom. Butterfree, use psychic power." The Pokemon hunter's Gengar may have some strength, but Butterfree achieved a series of 3 Pokémons in the Victor's Cup, and is much stronger than Gengar. After the psychic power collided with 100,000 volts, it quickly overwhelmed 100,000 volts and bounced the skill back, causing huge damage to one person and 2 Pokémons. In the chaos, Toucan even lost his combat effectiveness. Well done, Butterfree. Use another psychic power. The Lavender telekinesis rushed towards Gengar again, and Gengar, who had not yet recovered his breath, lost his combat effectiveness directly under Butterfree's attack. Even the Pokemon hunter was blown away by the telekinesis. Surrender. Xuanjian said to the Pokemon hunter who was knocked to the ground. Don't even think about it, the elf hunter said bitterly. You win this time, I won't let you go. He suddenly took out a smoke bomb and smashed it on the ground. The smoke bomb exploded immediately after hitting the ground, producing a large amount of black smoke containing tear gas. Xuanjian quickly ordered, Butterfree, blow the wind. Butterfree immediately flapped its wings and rolled up a strong wind, but the smoke bomb was obviously considered when it was made, and the black fog was difficult to blow away. When the smoke disappeared, the elf hunter had already fled with the 2 elves. He actually ran away. It's really a bargain for him. Duoga said bitterly. Forget it, it's not a waste anyway. Xuanjian pointed at Butterfree, and the 2 elves were already snuggling together intimately. Elves and people are the same. Whether they have excellent appearance or strong strength, they can attract the favor of the opposite sex. Butterfree's appearance may not be excellent, but the battle just now has proved its strong strength, so it naturally won the favor of Butterfree. By the way, what should we do with these fainted guys? Xuanjian asked Duoge. Nothing, just some paralysis powder and hypnotic powder were mixed into the food, so they all fainted and fell asleep, and they will wake up soon. I'd better help these injured Butterfree with some simple treatment first. Duoga said. Sure enough, more than an hour later, all the people who fainted woke up one after another. After figuring out what happened, everyone expressed their gratitude to Xuanjian. Kiluo saw Butterfree playing with Butterfree, and after a little hesitation, he agreed to their love. However, the conference was over soon and everyone was about to leave. Kiluo only planned to take a short vacation in the Orange Islands, and would soon return to the Kalos area to perform, so Butterfree, the young couple who had just come together, faced separation again. Sorry, Butterfree is my important performance partner, I can't let it leave. Kiluo said helplessly. Hearing Kiluo's words, Butterfree were a little depressed. Butterfree took Butterfree's hand and persuaded Butterfree to go with them, but Butterfree hesitated, finally shook her head, and returned to Xuanjian dejectedly. Xuanjian raised his hand and touched Butterfree's head. If Butterfree invites you to go, then go with it. Hearing Xuanjian's words, Butterfree was a little surprised at first, and then shook his head firmly, indicating that he was unwilling to leave Xuanjian. It's okay, children will always leave their parents when they grow up and pursue your love. Xuanjian came to Quirrell and handed Butterfree's Pokeball to him. Butterfree is in your hands. This guy has a strong psychic talent and currently has the strength of a high-level elite. I hope you treat it well. The strength of a high-level elite. Quirrell was so surprised that he couldn't close his mouth. A Pokemon with high-level elite strength is enough to be the main Pokemon of most gym trainers. He didn't expect Xuanjian to be willing to hand it over to him. Quirrell didn't believe it, but he felt that Xuanjian didn't need to deceive him. Xuanjian ignored Quirrell's surprise. After stuffing the Pokeball into Quirrell's hands, he came to Butterfree and said, Butterfree, you have grown up and can be independent. When you are not with me in the future, you must take good care of yourself and treat Butterfree well. After saying this, Xuanjian felt a pang in his heart, like a father who was about to send his daughter to marry, and he was reluctant to let her go. However, Xuanjian knew that this was the best way to deal with Butterfree. After all, Butterfree was gradually unable to keep up with his own progress due to the limitations of his racial talents. It was not a good thing for it to stay with him. Now that it has met its love, as a trainer, I should let it go and let it chase. You guys chat, I'll go over there. Xuanjian said and left quickly without looking back. Although he knew that this choice was the best for Butterfree, he was still reluctant to leave. If he stayed here any longer, he might not be able to control his tears, which would make Butterfree even more reluctant to leave him and not be able to leave happily with Quirrell. Xuanjian left, and Butterfree didn't care about anything else, and flapped its wings to chase after him. Quirrell signaled to the blue Butterfree to go over and comfort Butterfree, and then he walked to Duoge and said, Is Mr. Xuanjian okay? It's okay, it's just that he suddenly has to separate from his own Pokémon and he feels a little uncomfortable. Just let him calm down. Quirrell nodded, took out a Pokéball, handed it to Duoga, and said, please tell Xuanjian that I will treat Butterfree well. And please pass this to Mr. Xuanjian. What is this? Duoga took the Pokéball and asked with some confusion. This is a Candlelight, a Pokémon that I just hatched from an egg before I came for vacation. But I don't like this kind of Pokémon very much, and I don't get along very well with it. In exchange, I'll ask Mr. Xuanjian to train it. After all, Mr. Xuanjian is willing to give me such a precious Pokémon, and I can't just say nothing. Pokémon like Butterfree are very common, and their talents are not outstanding, but a high-level elite Butterfree is completely different, and is not inferior to some precious Pokémon. I will. Duoga nodded and put away the Pokéball. I hope you can keep your promise. Of course. I think there will be separations after reunions, which is good for everyone. There will be a related extra chapter released tomorrow, but it has not been decided whether it will be free or VIP. What do you think? In addition, this volume ends, and the next volume returns to Kanto. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.